Chapter 319. The high cliff, the precipice, the survival after the disaster should have been something worth celebrating. However, Kong Zhongwu knelt on the ground, his body trembling as he let out a roar of grief and indignation. He thought that this would be the last thing that could be called a bright thing in his life, to end this ridiculous and sad life in a not ugly way. However, he did not expect that it would become a nightmare that would make him unable to die in peace. He originally wanted to get rid of this terrifying monster and do a good deed for the people of the surrounding villages, but he did not expect that he would push the people of the village into a situation of certain death. "I can't ask for it. I can't ask for it. Ha ha ha!" He suddenly laughed wildly. "When I was young, I wanted to get rid of evil and promote good, but I couldn't. After I became rich, I wanted to be content with what I had, but I couldn't. Before I died, I wanted to die with dignity and no regrets, but I couldn't. Ha! My life is really a big joke. In the end, what I wanted, I didn't get anything. I didn't get anything. I didn't get anything." He laughed wildly with tears in his eyes as if he was crazy. His eyes gradually became fierce as he shouted, "What if I want to die?" The farmer was shocked when he suddenly saw Kong Zhongwu grab a bunch of vines on the edge of the cliff and jump down. Without thinking, he rushed forward and grabbed Kong Zhongwu's arm. "What are you doing?" He grabbed Kong Zhongwu's arm and hung him on the edge of the cliff. Below him was a height that could turn a person into meat paste. If the farmer's hand slipped, Kong Zhongwu would be smashed into pieces. However, even if his life was hanging by a thread, Kong Zhongwu still did not show any fear. Instead, he shouted, "Let me go." How could the farmer let him go? He said concisely, "What are you doing?" Kong Zhongwu's eyes flashed with madness. "This happened because of me. I'm a dying man, but before I die, I killed an innocent village. Even the king of hell won't forgive me. The only thing I could do now is to go down the mountain while I'm still alive and stop that monster. I'll try my best to buy time for the villagers to escape. Now that the situation is critical, it's too late to find a way down the mountain. Although the cliff here is steep, there are still vines, rocks that can be used as leverage. If I go down the mountain quickly, I might still be able to make it. Even if I can only save one, my life is worth it. Let me go. It's almost too late." The farmer said slowly, "This is too dangerous. You will die." Kong Zhongwu closed his eyes and hissed, "Then let me die." The farmer hesitated for a moment, then reached out and pulled a few vines from the side. He quickly twisted them together with one hand, then extended it in front of Kong Zhongwu's eyes. He calmly said, "Hold on. Although we are strong and have good hearing, and although there are vines and rocks on the cliff that we can borrow strength from, this place has been exposed to wind and rain all year round. Some of the rocks are loose and decayed. Once you step on them recklessly, you will die. Two people are always safer than one when doing this kind of thing. Grab this rope. I'll pull you, you jump down and find stable footing. Then pull me down and swing me down to find a new footing. It's safer this way." Kong Zhongwu shook his head. "This is a suicide mission. Why do you have to accompany me? Moreover, fourth sister-in-law risked her life to save you. You should work hard to survive. Let me go. I also don't know what I should do. If I can save someone before I die, it's not in vain." When the farmer mentioned fourth sister-in-law, a little tenderness appeared in his eyes. The corner of his mouth gently lifted, and he smiled rarely. He said softly, "As for fourth sister-in-law, she definitely won't blame me. Moreover, I also want to see her again as soon as possible." After that, his face darkened. "Do you still want to waste time here? It's almost too late." Kong Zhongwu gritted his teeth and grabbed the vines that the farmer passed to him. He wrapped them around his waist and then jumped down. Not long after, the farmer heard Kong Zhongwu shout. He grabbed the other part of the vines and jumped down without hesitation. Kong Zhongwu loudly pointed at the place where he could use the vines to land. Both of them were brilliant warriors. Their strength and agility were different from ordinary people. Moreover, they had already disregarded life and death, so they fell very quickly. It was simply playing with their lives. High risk meant high efficiency. Bamboo Mountain was not too high. Not long after, they actually climbed down all the way. Below them was a gentle slope. The two of them slid down the slope with rocks and strong grass. Their feet finally landed on the ground. The farmer moved his somewhat weak limbs. His weak body was filled with strength again. Before he could take a breath, Kong Zhongwu had already rushed forward like a whirlwind. Not far away was the meat patty that the monster had fallen down. A long trail of blood was dragged forward. A terrible monster was approaching the defenseless people. Kong Zhongwu used his body movement skill to the extreme. The scenery on both sides quickly receded. He gritted his teeth and quickly rushed forward along the trail of blood. The village in front of him was faintly visible, but the grass was growing and everywhere was covered. He did not know where the terrible monster had climbed to. Perhaps at this time the village was already a scene of Azura. But even so, perhaps there were still people who were not killed, waiting for him. Waiting for him, he roared and crazily rushed forward along the path beside the field. He opened his eyes wide and looked for traces of the enemy as he ran. Suddenly, he saw something in front of him. He saw that in the river flowing to the side of the village, a wet black shadow suddenly climbed out. "Thief, you dare!" He roared and lowered his body. He picked up a rock from the ground and took a few steps forward. He roared and used all his strength into his right arm and threw the rock out. This flying rock was filled with internal energy. It was fast and fierce. With a loud bang, it hit the monster's head and knocked it far away. But in the end, the distance was too far and the power was limited. It did not seem to have hurt it too much. The monster roared angrily, but it did not turn around to look at Kong Zhongwu. It was an extremely cunning monster. It knew what the most important thing was. It greedily searched for a moment and then let out a happy roar. Then it wobbled and plunged into the cowshed of the people at the side of the village. In the cowshed, the frightened and uneasy cries of the cattle could be heard. In the farming economy, the cattle were a family treasure. It was the most important production tool and even productivity for a rural family. So when this family heard the miserable cries of the cattle, they did not hesitate to pick up the farm tools and rush to the cowshed. Then they saw the most terrifying scene they had ever seen in their lives. A bloody, squirming mass of flesh made up of a large number of corpses wrapped around the lower half of the cattle. It kept squirming and swallowing. It was disgusting and terrifying. A few green tentacles silently stretched out and curled around the necks of a few humans. The women who followed behind let out miserable cries and screams like pigs being slaughtered. The sound alarmed the villagers, and many people came out to see what was going on. However, they were frightened by this hell-like scene. Screams of horror could be heard, whether it was cows, mules, chickens, ducks, birds, or even humans. All living things were sucked up by the monster in front of them. They were devoured and eventually became a part of its body. The monster seemed to have not eaten its fill. Its nimble tentacles kept twisting and turning, capturing all living things around it. In front of this terrible power, humans who had only practiced martial arts for a few years were really weak and not worth mentioning. Moreover, courage sometimes lost to fear, the fear of the unknown. The monster in front of them was not something they could understand. But this terrifying and strange creature could awaken their instinctive fear of death. People cried and ran away. Many people got up and got up again. Some carried children, some carried the elderly, and some did not care about anything else. They threw aside their cherished family and loved ones and ran away with their instincts. Stop! Kong Zhongwu finally arrived. Looking at the chaotic scene in front of him, his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. This was all caused by him. This was all his fault. Self-blame and guilt burned fiercely in his chest. He roared, forcibly raised the stone millstone by the roadside, and fiercely smashed it at the monster. This force was much stronger than the previous one. The monster that was constantly absorbing new bodies staggered and was almost blasted in two. With this, Kong Zhongwu successfully attracted the monster's aggro. Several tentacles frantically tried to grab him. Kong Zhongwu jumped to the side and shouted at the stunned people, "Run, run, run. Don't stay here. Run as far as you can. Run to Lu Town." In this desperate situation, a terrifying monster attacked the village. For a martial artist to appear and stop the monster To the desperate people, it was like a heavenly soldier had descended from the heavens, bringing them hope of survival. Although the people were still in chaos and panic, running in all directions, they were no longer at a loss. Gradually, there was order because they saw hope. Perhaps this was the meaning of a warrior. Kong Jong-woo was deep in thought, but the situation did not allow him to think. The terrifying monster had already targeted him and was ready to complete its mission. At this time, the monster had already swallowed a huge and strong cow. Using the cow as the base, it formed a huge monster with 4 hooves. At this moment, it aimed at Kong Jong-woo and charged at him with its 4 hooves. The strength of the bull was very strong. Now that it had become the monster's food and puppet, its strength would not decrease but increase. Kong Jong-woo quickly ran to the left. With a leap, he rushed to the right side of the earth wall. He ran along the wall in a 90-degree angle for more than 10 steps, avoiding the monster's terrifying attack. With a loud bang, the monster crashed into the earth wall and directly knocked down half of the house on the other side. Stones flew and debris flipped. In the ruins, the monster roared and stood up. Kong Jong-woo gritted his teeth and thought quickly. The body of this monster is that pile of green liquid. It has no shape, and its destructive power comes from the corpses it swallowed. As long as I destroy these corpses, I can turn it into a toothless tiger. My ability is limited, so I can't fight it head-on. I can only use clever tactics, like before, and throw it to the ground. He looked at his surroundings. There was no more dangerous terrain for him to land on Earth again. Then, he turned his gaze to the houses in the village. If that was the case, at this moment, a flame lit up in the distance. It dragged a bright flame tail in the air and rushed toward the monster. The monster let out a frightened roar and hurriedly dodged. It turned out that it was a torch. It fell among the collapsed ruins, causing the monster to let out an uneasy roar and carefully avoid it. Seeing this, Kong Jong-woo was very surprised. It was afraid of fire? Yes. Why didn't I think of it? Its body is made of corpses. It is still made of flesh and blood. It can still be burned by fire. He looked up and saw the farmer standing not far away. He was holding a torch in one hand and a steel fork in the other. He said in a low voice, "This beast is afraid of fire? Go and find some kerosene." Kong Jong-woo was surprised to see a chance of survival in a hopeless situation. He rushed directly to a house that looked more prosperous, kicked open the door, and rushed into the kitchen. He rummaged through the boxes and cabinets to find the kerosene. The monster was very smart. It seemed to realize that the two of them had found a magic weapon to restrain it. In anxiety, it ignored everything and directly rushed toward Kong Jong-woo. Kong Jong-woo heard the rumbling outside and the farmer's warning. He jumped out of the window with a jar of kerosene. In an instant, the monster rushed in with its 4 hooves. The pillars and walls of the house collapsed. Kong Jong-woo looked back and exchanged a glance with the farmer. Then, he shouted and threw the jar of kerosene at the monster while it was shaking off the broken beams and stones on its body. With a bang, the jar shattered. The kerosene inside splashed all over the monster. On the other side, the farmer waved the torch in his hand like a meteor. With a bang, he threw the torch at the monster. The kerosene attached to the corpse. The flame ignited the kerosene, and the fire roasted the corpse. All the environments were suitable for burning. The strong fire exploded in an instant, and the monster let out an earth-shattering roar of pain. Kong Jong-woo saw this and cried out in surprise. That green liquid is being evaporated by the fire. This method is effective. I'll go look for her. Before he could finish his sentence, the monster turned its head to look at him. With a roar, it charged at him again. What was even worse was that although the flames were damaging the monster's body, when it ran, it was like a flaming behemoth. It was majestic and unstoppable. Kong Jong-woo was alarmed as he hurriedly dodged. When the farmer saw this, he rushed into another house. Not long after, he ran out with a sinister smile and raised his earthen jar high before smashing it at Kong Jong-woo like a meteor chasing after the moon. Boom! The flames burned once again, constantly roasting the dead flesh, emitting crackling sounds. The monster seemed to think that this was nothing. Helpless, it rolled to the ground and rolled twice. However, the flames were already set. The beef was about to be 70% cooked. So how could it allow the fire to be extinguished? Helpless, the burning monster's green body fluid constantly flowed. With a tremble of its body, many stealth rats' corpses fell to the ground with burning embers. When Kong Zhongwu saw this, he shouted, "It's abandoning the rook to save the king. Shake off the burning corpses to extinguish the fire. Continue throwing. Let's see how many corpses it can use." At this time, the farmer was holding another can of flammable items. The corner of his mouth revealed a sinister smile as he used his attributes to suppress the boss. For a moment, he actually felt that the taste of setting fire was so wonderful. He raised the can high up and prepared to cast another fireball. But in the next moment, his face changed dramatically. The jar in his hand fell to the ground with a thud. He stared blankly at the burning monster not far away. It was constantly shaking off the burning corpses to prevent the flames from spreading. Therefore, he also saw the familiar face that suddenly appeared as the corpses burned. It was like his worst nightmare. Fourth sister-in-law. Chapter 320. The people who died for him, the people he loved, and the people he felt guilty towards. At this moment, they were right in front of him, but he couldn't reach them. The farmer took 2 steps back, and his hands trembled. Fourth sister-in-law. The monster seemed to have noticed his abnormality and noticed the farmer's careless dropping of the jar. Its simple intelligence also realized that this was an excellent opportunity. So, it let out a terrifying roar again. With blazing flames, its 4 hooves stomped the ground, and the life-threatening monster charged at the farmer with unstoppable momentum. The farmer looked at the pale face of fourth sister-in-law. He couldn't run or move. He murmured, "Fourth sister-in-law, fourth sister-in-law." At this critical moment, a loud roar came from the left. It turned out that Kong Zhongwu saw that the situation was not good, so he desperately rushed over from the side and crashed into the farmer with all his might. The burning monster swept past them, and the two hugged each other and rolled on the ground a few times. Kong Zhongwu roared and punched the farmer in the face. "What's wrong with you now? Did you come here with me to die? You?" A strange expression suddenly appeared on his face. Then, this expression turned into panic. Then, he screamed and was directly dragged to the back. It turned out that when they passed by each other, a few green tentacles had quietly sucked his body and kept dragging him back. Kong Zhongwu roared and kicked his feet. His hands clawed at the ground, firmly holding on to the ground and desperately resisting. Fortunately, the monster was first smashed into meat paste and burned a few times by the flames. Its strength was greatly reduced. Otherwise, he would have no power to resist like Xia Guowei. Even if the heart was willing to die, when death came, living creatures would still feel instinctive fear. Kong Zhongwu screamed, roared, and shouted. He reached out to the farmer lying on the ground. "Help me! Help me! Save me! Hurry up! Hurry up!" The farmer looked at Xia Guowei, who was struggling on the ground, and then looked at the monster that was approaching with its tentacles. He grabbed the steel fork on the ground and was about to use it to save Xia Guowei when his face suddenly changed. Pain and fear appeared on his face. He sucked in a cold breath, and his face turned pale. Kong Zhongwu glanced at it, and he felt as if his heart had been soaked in snow in an instant. It was ice cold. It can't be. At this time, the source egg in Runta's body awakened. The farmer staggered and knelt on the ground. Kong Zhongwu's shouts, the flames burning around him, everything seemed to be getting further and further away. Another world was waving at him. The people he had once unintentionally hurt, the people he had failed to protect, the people he felt guilty towards, the people who had died before him. His back felt numb, followed by a slight pain. The source of all suffering and torment had already awakened from within his body. It wouldn't be long before he would be completely devoured. He would reach the end of his life, and there would be no more difficult choices. There would be no more suffering in life. Yes, all resistance would be meaningless. All stories would have an end in the end. But was this enough? Was it enough to die like this? Not do anything, not care about anything, and quietly wait for release? Faintly, he seemed to hear the angry roar of the nine-gene old woman. Even if I die, I have to die standing. We are upright people, not beasts waiting to be slaughtered. Then, this voice became Sia Agave's. Because she gave us martial arts and changed our fate, we have to become pigs and dogs that she reared. She can kill us. She can cut us. She can torture us. Do you believe this? Why sold was my loyalty, not my soul. Death was approaching step by step. Death was concluding this life. Death was coming. Life was coming to an end. All the shackles and thick barriers that bound the soul were crumbling. People would think of many things before they died that they didn't dare to think of before. In front of the farmer's eyes, scenes of his life constantly flashed. This world was a furnace. He struggled for a lifetime, all for suffering. He was born in a humble family of servants. He played with the eldest miss since childhood. He once dreamed of protecting the eldest miss for a lifetime. But when the eldest miss grew up, he was sent far away and couldn't see her. He wanted to make a career, but he was trapped in the endless cage of trivial matters. After a carefree childhood, the burden of life was constantly shared from the shoulders of his father to himself. The world was so difficult, but he couldn't change anything. He couldn't stop his father from dying of illness. He couldn't stop the heartless fall of his master. He couldn't withstand the exorbitant taxes of the government. He couldn't resist the hundreds of tricks of fate. He wanted to change. He thought of every method and thought hard, but he always made things worse. The only time he was brave, it ended up like this. When the courage of the teenager and the young man gradually disappeared, what was left was a well-polished puppet. Since the result was the same, why should he resist? Until in that dark and gloomy cave where danger lurked everywhere, that little woman looked back and smiled for the last time. In this life, I have to protect a man, right? She died to save him. Now, her body was wrapped in the monster's body. She couldn't rest, couldn't be free, and was coldly looking at him. Fourth sister-in-law, you must be disappointed. I'm a useless person. I can't change anything. I can't do anything. I originally wanted to die like this and see you sooner, but you're looking at me, fourth sister-in-law. In this life, I have to be brave for once. The farmer murmured, I'm a useless person. I watched my family die, but I couldn't do anything. I watched the eldest miss become like this, but I couldn't do anything. I couldn't save you, and I couldn't save myself. Maybe it's the last time I'm brave in this life, and I can't change anything. But at least, I want to see you openly. I want you to know that even if it's me, even if it's a person like me, I could be brave for one last time. With a bang, the blade in the middle of the steel fork was broken by his hand. He roared to the sky, held the broken blade, and suddenly stabbed it into his back. You stay there. The sharp spikes were nailed into his spine, and he felt a tremor from his soul. The screams of the larvae seemed to shake every cell in his body, and the feeling of powerlessness and pain tortured his entire body. However, an indescribable and inexplicable strength supported the man to grasp the last of his courage and slowly stand up. The steel fork in his hand moved, and the sharp blade pierced through the air, cutting off the tentacles that were grabbing onto Kong Zhongwu. The fire that was ignited earlier had already spread out. The farmer held the steel fork and stood on the ground. He glanced at Kong Zhongwu and whispered, "Run." Then he raised the weapon in his hand and pointed at the monster from afar. Do you feel it? The larvae of the flying centipede have been nailed by me. Will it bite me to death first, or will it die from its injuries? He made the right bet. This monster's task was to ensure the successful awakening of the 8 bitter karma. How could it sit and watch the larvae die? It immediately changed its target. It gave up on Kong Zhongwu and turned all its attention to the farmer. Facing such a monster's direct gaze, the farmer was not afraid. He raised the steel fork in his hand. Fate was so unpredictable, and the human heart was so insignificant. He had once thought that with power, he could change the current situation, make himself brave, and change something. However, only after possessing power did he realize that the so-called power was nothing more than a poison that bewitched people's hearts. He thought that he could have everything, but he would constantly lose it. He thought that his fate could be changed, but he couldn't even protect the people he loved. But this time is different. The farmer held the steel fork tightly and whispered, "Fourth sister-in-law, look at me, look at me." The monster roared and rushed over, with the call of death, the raging flames, and the final judgment of fate on this small and useless person. Death was near, and the farmer had no fear or panic. Only this time, resistance was filled with hope. Fourth sister-in-law. Fourth sister-in-law. He silently muttered the name of the person who gave him the last bit of courage. Unknowingly, the image of the first miss in his heart had already quietly disappeared. He recalled the soft body leaning on his back in the cave and the soft whispers in his ear. "Don't call me fourth sister-in-law. I have a name. I'll tell you. My name is—" The life-taking monster roared and rushed over. The farmer raised the steel fork in his hand, and his eyes were wide open with anger. He let out the strongest cry of his life. That was the name of the person he loved. Xiao Cha. The night was gloomy, and the moon was faintly visible. Under the golden moon, in the burning village, there was a farmer in ragged clothes. He held a steel fork in his hand and stabbed it with all his might at the monster that was rushing over. There was no earth-shattering collision, no heroic sacrifice. Just like all the previous resistance of this useless person against fate, the result this time was the same as before. The nailed larvae kept struggling, and the green liquid kept wrapping around their bodies. A large number of corpses kept squeezing over. The farmer reached out his hand, pushed away the layers of corpses, and stroked the cheek of his beloved. He smiled, "Xiao Cha. Xiao Cha, look at me, look at me." Then he used the last of his strength to grab a pouch tied to his waist. This was a bag of kerosene found in a house. He held it in his hand and then blew on the lighter that was also hidden at his waist. Bursting flames instantly rose, roaring, roaring, exploding out of the monster's body, burning, 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 burning. My resistance this time, finally I won. Chapter 3:21. Kong Zhongwu watched as the last of his companions perished in the raging flames of the beast that had gone through hundreds of battles. At this moment, he was lying on the ground. He had yet to recover from the weakness of escaping death. Looking at the raging flames, he was in a daze. No one knew what he was thinking. Suddenly, he wanted to cry, but he also wanted to laugh. He had lived until now and was actually the last survivor. His life was hanging by a thread, and he was almost swallowed into the stomach of this terrifying monster. The farmer who had suffered all his life was brave for once in his last life, sacrificing his life to save him, and then perishing together with the monster. At this moment, Kong Zhongwu's heart was filled with the joy of escaping from death, seeing through the world of mortals, having the will to live and not wanting to live anymore. These thoughts had long been thrown beyond the highest heavens. He only remembered the fear when the green liquid tentacles sucked on his clothes and dragged him with all their might, the helplessness when he shouted loudly and struggled with all his might. And now he was breathing in large mouthfuls of fresh air and feeling the light pleasure of relaxing his limbs and bones. Being alive was really good. Even an ant would struggle to survive, let alone a human. Seeing the farmer's body being swallowed by the flames and the monster burning into a blazing ball of fire, his fresh life ending in front of him. His companions who shared the same fate had all died. At this moment, apart from the 5 skandhas and the 8 distresses, he was the only one left. In other words, the next one would be him. Praying for survival, escaping death, these were the instincts of all living beings. Although the will to live had already sprouted, although the so-called decision had already been made, fate loved to play tricks on mortals. In the blink of an eye, he had already gone back and forth between life and death several times, and had already personally experienced the terror and despair of death. The only thing left in his heart was his love and longing for life, his reluctance to part with this world. It was not his reluctance to part with wealth and power, but his longing for life. Moreover, there is also a thought that grew madly like a poisonous vine, constantly licking at his soul, taking root deeper and deeper in his heart. Xiaogui had said that if it was his turn to awaken the Genesis egg, he would forcefully use a blade to dig it out. Although this would harm the foundation of his body, it would not be life-threatening. At least he would be able to keep his life. Just now, when the Genesis egg was awakening, Runtu had used a steel spike to pierce the larvae that were about to awaken and feed, giving himself the last chance to resist. In other words, the location of the source egg could be sensed and determined. In other words, I'll be able to survive. Even if the Genesis egg awakens, I'll still be able to live because I'm the last one. I won't have to worry about harming others if I take out the Genesis egg. Kong Zhongwu's face was filled with ecstasy. It was as if he had found a straw to clutch at in a desperate situation. He rummaged in his arms and found a steel dagger. He had taken it when he was searching the bamboo mountain. Rather than saying that it was for self-defense, it was better to say that it was for self-destruction. Now, this dagger had a new meaning and use. It carried the hope of the future in life. He laughed twice, as if he was very satisfied with his current situation and was looking forward to the future. Finally, this time, then he saw an explosion of red light. From the burning corpse, a red rainbow broke through the air, sweeping across the already darkened sky, and rushed in the direction of Lutown. Then, amidst the burning corpses, the broken limbs, and the slightly charred human figure struggled to stand up. The green mucus kept shrinking, extending, tearing, and piecing together the corpses that formed the body. When he saw this scene, Kong Zhongwu seemed to have been struck by lightning. He was stunned on the spot, and immediately after, his intestines turned green with regret. He had never been more aware of the importance of the last hit than he was now. This cunning beast, this terrible monster, its mission was to recover the 8 bitter karma. It was very cunning. The farmer's death had severely injured it. If it showed even a little sign that it was still alive, it would have been killed by Kong Zhongwu, who had escaped death and was close to madness. It dared not take the risk, so it endured and used its core power to take out the farmer's spine to nourish the injured larvae. It guided the larvae to complete the devouring process, and then released the karma of the bitter karma. After doing all this, it finally launched its final attack and wanted to have a final battle with Kong Zhongwu. At this time, Kong Zhongwu's strength was gradually recovering, while his opponent's vitality was greatly damaged. It was struggling to piece together the body parts, the charred corpses of the farmer and Shan's sister-in-law hugging each other, the front half of the cow, and other fragmented or complete corpses. The efficiency was very low, and its speed was very slow. Obviously, its strength was also greatly reduced. It could be said that the assembled monster seemed to be at its weakest moment in history. Kong Zhongwu turned around and ran. Run, why not run? This monster can't run anymore. It can't run anymore. I can get rid of it. Run, why not run? I'm about to win. I don't have to die. Why should I stay and risk my life to fight with it? If I accidentally die, wouldn't it be a waste? Run, why not run? The more I live, the more I die. It's enough to experience the terrible moment of death once. I definitely don't want to experience it a second time. The ruthlessness of fighting to the death, the chivalrous spirit of wanting to get rid of a pest for the people before death, the anger and unwillingness when he saw that he had implicated the villagers, all these emotions had disappeared. The desire to survive covered everything. At this time, Kong Zhongwu longed for the beauty of life, the value of survival. He just wanted to live, that was all. No matter what, he had to live. Therefore, he ran along the small road in the village and ran out of the village. No problem, I can survive. I will definitely survive. When the source egg flares up, I will take it out. I will definitely survive. When he ran past a house that was half destroyed by the monster and half on the other side was burning, he suddenly heard a strange noise. An agitated and desperate voice said, "Help! Save me!" His human instincts made him turn his head and look in the direction of the cry for help. He quickly determined the situation. A half-grown child was pinned under a wooden beam. His complexion was normal, and he didn't seem to be seriously injured. He was just pinned down by something heavy and couldn't get away. This house was collapsed by the monster, and he was doomed to die. However, the house on the other side happened to be on fire. The monster was afraid of fire, so it quickly moved away and didn't eat him. Thus, he escaped with his life. Don't save him. Moving the wooden beam will take time. Moving the rubble will consume energy. He's been pressed down for a long time and can't move. If I carry him, I won't be able to run far. This is a critical moment. I can't implicate myself. Continue to run. I haven't lived long enough. Life is in danger. Everyone struggles for their own lives. Don't blame me. In a flash, Kong Zhongwu weighed the pros and cons in his mind and made a choice. He did not stop and continue to move forward. The child seemed to realize something, and his voice became more desperate. Save me. I can still run. Just help me move the wooden beam away. I beg you. Save me. Unfortunately, after experiencing the torture of life and death, the figure's heart was as hard as stone. He would not be moved by the miserable cries. The child looked at Kong Zhongwu's back in despair. When the monster attacked, didn't he suddenly appear and stop the monster to buy time for everyone to escape? He was so brave at that time. Why did he ignore me now? Come and save me. Punishing evil and promoting good. Saving the innocent. Isn't this what you do, your chivalrous deeds? Aren't you chivalrous? He closed his eyes and shouted in despair. Chivalrous hero, save me. Kong Zhongwu's figure stagnated. It was as if he was struck by a thunderbolt. Chivalrous hero. These two words were like the most miraculous incantation, making his feet rooted to the ground, making his mouth dry up, making him unable to move, making him unable to escape. Behind him, there were still cries of despair. Chivalrous hero, save me. He even felt a sense of desolation and melancholy. How long has it been since I heard someone call me chivalrous hero? No, I've never been called that before, right? Run. What use is the title of chivalrous hero? Run. They will never be grateful to you. Run. Only when they beg you will they call you that. You can't save him. Just like before, you couldn't help those who needed help, and instead you were hated and beaten up. You will only lose yourself. This time is the same. Run, my legs, run. Keep running, keep running. In an instant, Kong Zhongwu's face became incomparably sinister. His face twisted, snot and tears flowed out, mixing together. He did not know what had happened to him. Perhaps he had gone crazy, perhaps he had lost his mind, or perhaps the source egg had acted up and he could no longer control his body. He should have run, continue to run to a safe place, run to a place where he could live. He roared, cried, and roared. He turned around and madly rushed to the ruins. He ran to the side of the crying child who had been saved from a desperate situation. His eyes were red. He used all his strength to throw stones and lift wooden beams. He used all his strength, and used all his strength again and again. It was as if he wanted to use all his strength, as if he wanted to burn his entire body. It was as if there were countless indescribable emotions, surging, expanding, exploding, and howling in his chest. He had waited for this day for a long time. Chivalrous hero, the chivalrous hero you wanted, is here. You should have done this earlier. Where did you go 10 years ago? You should have called me that earlier. You should have done this earlier. You should have believed in me earlier. You don't know, as long as you call me chivalrous hero, I could be like this now. I don't even care about my life. I'm serious. I'm not a hoodlum who carries a broken sword from home. I want to be a chivalrous hero. You should call me that. The thick wooden beam was finally lifted up, and he raised his hand to drag the child out. The time wasted here was enough for the life-taking monster to approach with a roar. It was as if he had rehearsed this thousands of times. Kong Zhongwu slid out the dagger with a backhand, and with the other hand, he pushed the child who had just escaped into the distance and shouted, "Run! Run quickly! I'll block it!" He was finally going to face this terrible monster. The dagger in his hand swept past the cold light of Sun Ran, and the blazing fire in his heart burst forth with the last of his courage. Kong Zhongwu let out a long howl and attacked first. Swipe, stab, pick, and cut. The enemy in front of him was unimaginably strong. It was not something that could be resisted with a dagger and courage. But what ordinary people could not do, what justice did not dare to do, was to be a chivalrous hero. I'm not afraid of you. No one can defeat me. Nothing can stop me. Today, of the 8 hardships of life, I have no choice but to die. Today, Kong Zhongwu is here. His emotions were surging, and his blood was boiling. The ground under his feet was so solid, and he felt that he once again had the courage to stand upright. The resentment, doubt, despair, and sadness that had accumulated in his heart for more than 10 years were all gone. All the residue and rotten blood were burned away by the blazing fire, and a new soul was reborn in a new body, calmly facing the final battle. The dagger flipped in his palm, and then he went straight for the center, breaking through layers of defense, tearing apart tentacles one after another, separating flesh, breaking the links, and cutting off the green liquid. But his opponent was a terrifying creature that had no blood, no tears, no pain, and no fear. The continuous setbacks did not stop its killing intent at all. The moment the dagger pierced into the monster's core, the dozens of tentacles had already bounced up high. Kong Zhongwu was stunned for a moment, and then a smile appeared on his face. As expected, it was still not enough, but he did not feel regretful. At the critical moment, a thin sound like the sound of insects suddenly came from the sky, one after another. Then, dozens of silver lights whizzed down like a meteor shower, instantly cutting off the green liquid tentacles that were ready to attack. The silver feathers were controlled by an invisible hand, and like swallows, they flew up and down in the air, protecting Kong Zhongwu's body. In an instant, these flying spirits seemed to have received the order to attack, and like silver shuttles, they swept across the sky like silver shuttles. Dozens of sharp lights pierced back and forth, and the silver light poured down like the Milky Way. The pieced-together monster had been cut into fine powder that was difficult to be seen by the naked eye. Zhao Yunlong flapped his iron wings and descended from the sky. He took out the horizon spear, and the tearing wind pressure blew the broken pieces into endless sand. General Zhao held the spear horizontally and looked at Kong Zhongwu, who had fallen to the ground, and said indifferently, "Not bad." But Kong Zhongwu could no longer hear the praise that the hundreds of old soldiers in the Tianyuan army could not get back. He felt that the world was spinning, and everything was quickly becoming unreal. Vaguely, he saw the young man he had saved running over, and the shout was still in his ears. He looked at the child that he had risked his life to save and smiled slightly. "Child, am I very useless? Even after risking my life, I still could not compare to a casual spear. The one who saved you was actually not me. I am not very capable, and I have always been very useless. I could not help you in the past, and what I can do now is also limited. So, I can't beat him. I can't save you. Am I a hero? Ah, if that's the case, then that's good. Then I am relieved." Chapter 3:22. He believed in justice and chivalry, and used his own strength to punish evil. This was what a ranger was. The newbie ranger Sun Lang, with his hot-blooded righteous heart, will also do his best to save the innocent today. At least, that was what he thought. Lu Shujin, a weak single girl, was forced into a predicament. "No, no, 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 no." Sun Lang cried out again and again. His aura was like a rainbow, his fists and feet stirred up the wind, and his sword aura crisscrossed. His eyes shone with an intense light, and his fighting spirit soared into the sky. At this moment, he was like a warrior on the battlefield who was invincible against tens of thousands of enemies. Facing the enemy he recognized, he raised the weapon in his hand and issued a declaration of war, encouraging his blazing soul to pursue a beautiful future and tomorrow. His sparkling eyes reflected the shadows of his opponents. Every time he threw out a punch, he would shout out a name. Perhaps it was the source of courage that stimulated his soul. Lewd Demon Insect, Ling, Touch Island's Demon Repelling Record. The Day When the Radio Waves Die Out. Sister's Diary. Perverted Night, G. Paladin Luvaliska. Lu Shujin tried her best to block him, but she found it increasingly difficult to do so. It was indeed a good thing that Sun Lang had regained his fighting spirit and was getting serious, but she could see something very bad in his eyes, especially the words that he kept shouting just now. She could understand each word, but when they were strung together, she couldn't understand what they meant. However, with her girl's intuition, she still felt that something was very wrong. Jidu was still supplying a steady stream of demonic power. Through the blazing 5 accumulations, she could faintly sense that Runtu and Kong Zhongwu had already fallen into a desperate situation, and their deaths were perhaps only a moment away. When the 8 bitter karmic powers were gathered, the blazing 5 accumulations would return to the source. Through the final sacrifice, the Jidu demon sword was about to be completed. The plan was so wonderful, but she found that Sun Lang had already become the greatest variable. So, why did he become so proactive? It felt so sudden. Ever since he touched me, he became very fanatical. What's going on? My great spear is thirsty. Sun Lang roared to the sky. I, Sun Riqian, will let you know that only the strong can have a breast. Over the years, most of the time, the one who controlled this body was the old leftover woman, Annie Lu. Although the bitch personality was bitchy, after all, it was just a picture in clothes. It could be said that she was an armchair strategist and had seen too little. Even if her favorability towards Sun Lang was very high, she was still a virgin after all. She couldn't stand these thoughtless rumors. To put it simply, under the moonlight, Sun Lang gracefully handed over a flower, revealed a Jackson-style gentle smile, and said softly, I heard that summer nights are the most romantic season of the 4 seasons in the year because there are always different opportunities, such as when I met you. I heard that you are a very beautiful little girl. Such lines. The B*TCH personality would definitely blush, and her favorability would soar. Moreover, in the ambiguous atmosphere and the situation where her hormones soared, coupled with her already high favorability, she would most likely be deceived by Sun Lang, this scumbag man. It could be said that once she saw her lover, she would lose her chastity. But now, Sun Lang suddenly became a carnivorous fighter. He punched and kicked. His murderous aura filled the air, and he roared towards the sky. His eyes shot out a beast-like light, and the corners of his mouth revealed a terrifying lewd smile like a rapist. All his actions and thousands of words converged into one sentence, which was, I'm going to F*King stab your F*King eyes. In this kind of situation, as long as a girl's IQ is online, no matter how high her favorability was, she would still be F*King panicked, right? Looking at Sun Lang's appearance, even the B*TCH personality panicked. She tried her best to stop Sun Lang's increasingly fierce attacks and shouted loudly, What's wrong with you? What do you want to do? Good question. I'm afraid you won't ask. Sun Lang beat his chest and let out a sad roar. How many F*King years have I F*King been F*King masturbating? Now, the strength of my right hand is 30% stronger than my left hand. The sword of my right hand is more than twice as nimble as the sword of my left hand. I can almost know your 3 measurements with one glance. I can even forcefully recall the many novels and romance novels that I played and read 8 years ago through meditation. If I F*King become a romance novelist now, I can beat the SH*T out of my industry peers in the world. Do you believe it? Especially these 2 years. These 2 years. Do you know how I got here? While he was suppressing Lu Shujin, his every punch and every kick could tear a large piece of the dense demon aura. In this K2 suppression, where the demon aura flowed freely, his momentum soared like a hot knife through butter, catching up to the disadvantage and gradually contending with the power of the demon sword. But what left the deepest impression was his eloquent confession, which made those who heard it cry. Do you think it's easy for me? Fighting for 6 years, All the F***king frontline. Being a soldier for 6 years, even a sow has turned into a cicada. It's not easy to run to this materialistic world. F***king lambs. Can't touch. Can't F***ck. I'm F***king going to become the #1 gigolo in the industry. Even if I'm going to have sex, F***king. Am I F***king whoring her, or is she whoring me? What the hell is this guy talking about? Anyway, Sun Lang revealed a sinister smile. I F***ed for so many years, and now you actually dare to appear in front of me. You're seeking your own death. Lu Shujin was frightened by this scary smile. She panicked and took 2 steps back. She crossed her hands and set up layers of defense with her demon aura. She screamed, what do you want to do? F***ck. I'm going to make you cry. Sun Lang punched out, and the surging sword energy seemed to come from the sky. It roared and broke through the layers of demon aura barriers. One punch after another. Each punch condensed the supreme sword intent. He achieved the greatest result with the least effort. This was a realm that the B***TCH couldn't reach with the help of Ji-Do to obtain a huge amount of power. Only by experiencing endless bloody battles and slaughtering countless strong enemies could one forge a fighting skill that was like an instinct. The thick and heavy defense was constantly crumbling, but something even more terrifying was attacking the heart of the B***TCH personality. Sun Lang's every move was awe-inspiring and imposing. He was indeed worthy of being the general of heaven's origin who had once reigned supreme over the 6 armies. However, the words he said were so terrifying that if it were to spread out, it would break the hearts of many people who had admired him. What do I want? I want to teach you a good lesson. I won't stop no matter what. I won't stop no matter what. I won't stop until you deeply understand your mistakes, until you don't even have the strength to beg for mercy. In short, I want to let you understand my anger and what you've done. Stupid woman, you're asking for it. Seeking. Death. Path. Sun Lang was so excited that his entire body was trembling. Combined with his imposing manner and radiant eyes, he really looked like a super high school level idiot. He licked the corner of his mouth and continued to attack. Even his laughter had changed. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. You'll have breasts. Beep. You'll also have a toilet. I've been keeping myself pure for so many years, and it's finally time for me to open my business. Using his palm as a sword, the yellow clouds moved for thousands of miles, and the white waves flowed like a snowy mountain. The sword energy stirred the wind and the clouds, turning into 9 invisible sharp blades. They spun and flew, blasting open the thick demon aura barrier like a drill. Sun Lang forcibly tore through the layers of obstacles and unstoppably rushed to the panicked Lu Shujin. He roared, "It's useless, it's useless. No one could stop me. Cry, cry, then move on your own." Idiots weren't scary. What was scary was that idiots knew martial arts. The B***TCH personality had already been frightened by Sun Lang's earth-shattering speech. As long as it was a virgin, no matter what her personality was, no matter how much theoretical knowledge she had, when encountering such a pervert, the panic in her heart could be imagined. Most importantly, her reliance had already lost its effect. The powerful demon aura of K2 was nothing more than a slightly sturdy tile in front of a former sword Saint Martial. She looked at the rushing Sun Lang, and the fear and helplessness in her heart had already reached the limit. She was panicked. She was helpless. She had no one to rely on. Yes, in this world, there was already no one she could rely on. Except for her. So scary, I don't want to. Save me. Help me. I don't want to face this instinctively. Such a thought flashed through her mind. That touch of despair and panic didn't escape Sun Lang's eyes. He stretched out his hand towards Lu Shujin, and in a flash, Sun Lang's right hand pressed on Lu Shujin's head. A light blue radiance flashed through his eyes, and in an instant, a gentle and flowing power flowed from Sun Lang's palm into Lu Shujin's Bai Wei acupoint. That power was so gentle, so vast, so inclusive, and so free and unrestrained like the clouds. The B asterisk TCH personality opened her eyes wide in an instant and said in shock, "This? What's going on? How can you have this kind of power?" Before she could finish her words, she felt the fear in her heart being infinitely magnified. That enormous negative emotion suppressed her consciousness in an instant, forcing her to escape into the dark sea of consciousness. She closed her eyes and then opened them again. The other personality once again took control of the body. Aunt Lu opened her eyes and looked at Sun Lang, her expression infinitely complicated. "You? Why didn't you just kill me? Why did you save me?" Sun Lang smiled faintly. 8 years ago, when I came to this world, you, godly Dr. Lu, also attended the ceremony as a medical staff. You were also responsible for the examination and care of my body. You also had a part in that matter back then. There's still 1 year left. I'm going to smash this world into smithereens. Things will end where they started. 8 years ago, this group of people watched me come to this world. 1 year later, as long as they're not dead, they'll have to be present and watch how I destroy the things they want to protect. Follow the rules, finish what you started, and don't let down the good relationship between everyone. He smiled. This big show, without your Aunt Lu, it would be very disappointing. So, you're not allowed to die. Lu Shujin smiled bitterly. But I made a big mistake. I killed a lot of people. Sun Lang said calmly. So what? Even if you kill everyone in this town, you can't die if I don't let you. Moreover, you didn't do it. Why are you taking the blame for such a boring thing? Lu Shujin shook her head sadly. You don't understand. You don't understand. Although I didn't do all this with my own hands, it all started because of me. If it wasn't for me, none of this would have had the chance to happen. Big drops of tears suddenly flowed out of her eyes. I shouldn't have existed in the first place. I'm the one who occupied someone else's body. Sure enough, Sun Lang nodded slowly. Facing Lu Shujin's surprised gaze, he said calmly, connecting the words and actions of the B asterisk TCH personality before and the testimonies of Ah Chong and the farmer. I've already vaguely guessed this point. But what does it matter? You are the Lu Shujin I know. Your life carries my past. There is no doubt that you are the Lu Shujin I recognize. You are her. This is enough. Lu Shujin murmured. Her eyes flashed with an inexplicable light. Timidity, loss, and a trace of pleading. She said softly, I really can. At this moment, a red light suddenly flashed across the sky. Sun Lang's face suddenly changed. Not good. He pushed Lu Shujin away with one hand and pointed to the sky with the other. A fierce sword chi roared out from his body, as magnificent as a dragon, and welcomed the 8 bitter karma that fell from the sky. However, this was Ji-Du's territory. The surroundings were filled with demonic power, which was unpredictable and would not follow the ordinary rules. The 8 bitter karma burst out with a bang and turned into 3,000 everywhere. It avoided the attack of Sun Lang's sword chi and turned into thousands of scattered forces that seeped into the demonic aura all over the sky. Then it returned to its origin. The karma merged into the demonic aura and returned to Ji-Du then. It all returned to Lu Shujin's body through the resonance channel between Ji-Du and the 5 skandhas. The karma that came from the farmer's life, along with Runta's life's sufferings and his last courage, was completely absorbed by the 5 skandhas. Lu Shujin suddenly opened her eyes wide. Her eyes were red. Brother Runtu, Sun Lang's expression changed. He immediately reached out and pressed Lu Shujin's head. However, the next moment, the personality switched. The evil soul opened her eyes with despair. Although she was driven into the sea of consciousness, she still knew everything that was happening in the outside world. The bitch personality let out a scream. An even more terrifying demonic power burst out and attacked Sun Lang. You lied to me. You betrayed me. I am Lu Shujin. Sun Lang, I am Lu Shujin. Chapter 3:23. The feeling of failing at the last step was not good. In order to awaken the most primitive fear in the heart of the bee *TCH and create an opportunity for Aunt Lu to take back her body, Sun Lang abandoned his own sense of shame and threw away the precious moral integrity that he had carefully protected for 8 years. With his noble and proud soul, he let out a perverted roar against his will, risking the damage to his reputation just to save his comrade. What a great spirit this was! However, just as he was about to succeed, he failed at the last step. In other words, 6 of the 7 distresses that were used as sacrifices had died so far. The remaining 1 must have been caught in a bitter battle and might die at any time. There was no time. I am Lu Shujin. Sun Lang. I am Lu Shujin. The voice of the bee *TCH was already sobbing. The resentment that she had accumulated for a long time completely exploded at this moment. All this time, she could only stay in that dark corner and be a bystander. She could only watch unwillingly as the life that originally belonged to her was written by a false soul. All of this should have been her. All of this should have been her. She screamed shrilly, her 10 sharp fingers carrying a terrifying demonic energy. Like a crazy female leopard, she pounced on Sun Lang. You are mine. She is fake. I won't allow you to side with her. She treated you so badly, but you still care about her. She caused you to be like this, but you still care about her. If the person who saw you back then was me, you wouldn't have had to suffer all those hardships, do you understand? Only I'm truly good to you. You are not allowed to leave me. The girl was already like a crazy demon. The continuous changes and extreme thinking had pushed her to the extreme. Her words were so emotional that it made people feel pity for her. Her appearance was so pitiful that people couldn't help but want to take care of her, love her, and protect her. However, Sun Lang's heart was still like stone. Pity and sympathy were too precious for him. He blocked Lu Shujin's attack and said calmly, I don't know you. I only know one Lu Shujin, and she is the real Lu Shujin. As for you, don't think too highly of yourself. From the very beginning, you suddenly jumped out and said some strange things to me without permission. You prepared a suspicious path for me without permission. I appreciate your kind intentions, but I don't need anyone to arrange my future for me. I don't need anyone to teach me what to do. His expression had already turned cold. This is your last chance. For the sake of Aunt Lu, I can still spare your life. You are very pitiful, and she must have felt guilty towards you. If you die like this, I'm afraid she won't be able to forgive you for the rest of her life. So, give her and give yourself a chance to change your fate. The bitch was stunned for a moment and suddenly laughed. Her laughter was full of sadness and despair. She chuckled and said, You are always on her side. You're always thinking for her. But I can't get anything, and instead, I have to accept her charity? She raised her eyebrows and screamed, I will never admit it. I will never forgive her. I want her to live in loss and pain every day. I want her to be depressed for the rest of her life. Not only that, I want to kill everyone in this town. All the blood debts, all the price, the destruction of the Lu family, the death of innocents, the fate of the 8 distresses being played around, all the bitter consequences. I want her to taste it for the rest of her life. The bitch roared, and the blazing demon power rose into the sky. Echoing with G, her eyes flashed with a strange purple light, and she laughed crazily. All the remaining flying centipedes, hosts, hidden mice, chimeras, all the creatures that listen to my orders, I order you to wake up, then kill, destroy, and destroy everything. Take revenge on this world. Destroy this world until everything is destroyed. I will not rest until I die. As soon as her voice fell, a magnificent sword energy rose into the sky. Sun Lang pointed his sword, and the sword energy pierced through the mountains and rivers. The brilliant sword energy pierced through the air and heavily blasted on Lu Shujin's body. The bitch spat out a mouthful of blood, and the thick demon power around her shattered. Sun Lang didn't stop and rushed straight to the sword altar. The high-spirited sword energy had already explained Sun Lang's intention. He wanted to destroy Jidu. The bitch was caught off guard and was hit by the sword, and had temporarily lost the ability to move. But she laughed, and there was still joy in her smile. It's useless. It's useless, useless, useless. You have lost the holy sword. And with only your mortal body, you want to destroy the demon sword Jidu that is on par with the 7 luminary sacred sword? Sun Lang turned back and showed an indifferent smile. What do you think I did 2 years ago? The bitch was startled at first, and then an extremely uneasy feeling appeared in her heart. Then she heard Sun Lang roar to the sky. Under the ruins of the 100 Garden, the wind and clouds surged in an instant, and the violent sword energy rose into the sky with a strong killing intent that was intertwined with anger and sorrow. The figure that faced the demon sword seemed to have changed into a different person. It was a confused soul, a wanderer that had yet to walk out from the sadness and anger of the past. And now, he was facing the demon sword that was on par with the 7 luminary sacred sword, and it awakened the memories that he didn't want to recall. This body had fought for 3,000 miles, and one sword had blocked millions of troops. In an instant, it was as if time and space had been displaced, and the sun and moon had reversed, returning to the past. An angry soul turned all the sadness and despair into boiling, killing intent, and crazily vented it to the entire world. Sun Lang roared, and with boiling, killing intent, he threw out a heavy punch. The demon's sword had a spirit, and it buzzed, as if it had already realized that its life was in danger. Demon sword Jidu's purple light shone brightly, and the surroundings were filled with a frenzied screech, as if thousands of demons were roaring at the same time. In an instant, the demon's sword left the sword base and rushed into the sky and spun rapidly towards Sun Lang. Its speed became faster and faster, and in the end, it turned into a ball of purple light, and with a spiraling sword energy that could almost penetrate everything, it attacked Sun Lang. The demon's sword slashed straight towards Sun Lang, and with a strange and terrifying power, a hurricane was formed, and Sun Lang's clothes fluttered wildly in the wind. Facing such a terrifying power, Sun Lang did not retreat, and instead, he advanced. With a loud shout, he brazenly pointed out with his finger, and the formless sword energy howled like a dragon, one righteous and one demonic. The 2 terrifying sword chis clashed in the air, and the sword chis that went out of control scattered in all directions, leaving deep ravines on the ground, and even the sturdy rocks were torn into pieces. Sun Lang's 2 fingers blocked the tip of the demon's sword, using his flesh and blood to contend against the invincible divine weapon, and he actually had the upper hand. He revealed a sinister smile, and the billowing sword chis left his body, pushing outwards inch by inch. The air vibrated with a strange buzzing sound, and the body of the demon's sword actually started to bend, as if it was about to break. Sun Lang raised his other hand, and towards his right wrist that was blocking the tip of the demon's sword, he pushed horizontally. Scrap metal, I can crush you with my bare hands. Jidu seemed to be unable to withstand this increasingly strong power, and with a sword cry, it bounced back rapidly. After all, it was only a weapon, and it only had strength, but no strategy, not to mention imposing manner and fighting spirit. Sun Lang let out a long howl and caught up with him in big strides. He stretched out his hand and grabbed onto the tip of Jidu's demon sword, and then he threw the demon's sword onto the ground. Dust flew up, and with a loud bang, Sun Lang raised his right leg and stomped towards the body of Jidu's demon sword. Jidu flipped over to dodge, but who knew that Sun Lang had predicted all of this perfectly, and had already punched down, hitting the hilt of the demon sword, causing Jidu to be stabbed into the ground. Then he swept his leg across the waist. Jidu was stabbed into the ground diagonally, and there was no way for him to dodge, so he was directly kicked. The demon's sword let out a mournful cry, and the entire body of the demon's sword was almost bent by 90 degrees from the kick. Sun Lang's kick landed, and without any mercy, he clenched his fists and punched forward fiercely. Stop! The bitch personality's eyes almost popped out of their sockets, and she spat out a mouthful of blood. There was a resonance between her and Ji-do, so she could naturally feel the fear and pain of the demon's sword. That's right, it was fear. Although the sacrificial ritual had not been completed, and Ji-do's demon sword spirit had not fully awakened its consciousness, it felt an incomparable fear, the fear of death. Sun Lang, he could actually destroy the demon sword that was on the same level as the seven luminaries' sacred sword? How was this possible? It was a pity that her screams were destined to not receive any response. Sun Lang's heart was like stone, and he punched and kicked this newly born demon sword. Everything was just as the bitch personality had hoped. The sword Saint Martial in the past would not have any mercy to his enemies, and he would not show any mercy. Even if it was a demon sword, it would also be torn into a pile of scrap metal by him. The bitch personality was in pain, and she struggled. She felt Ji-do's pain, and felt the scars and small cracks on the demon sword. Perhaps in the next moment, this demon sword that she had painstakingly forged would be shattered under Sun Lang's heavy punches. Her lifelong dream and efforts would also disappear like the flowers in the mirror and the moon in the water. She had paid such a huge price, but in the end, it was all for nothing. And now, she was affected by Ji-do's attack. The demon power in her body had dissipated, and she could not move at all. She did not even have the strength to perish together with her other self. She could not do anything, and could only watch as she was about to fall into darkness again, and never be able to escape. After working hard for so long, after doing so many things, she did not get the results she wanted. She could not get anything, whether it was freedom, love, or dreams. She could not get anything. She could not ask for anything. She could not ask for anything. She laughed bitterly and blinked her eyes. Silently, that pair of despairing eyes lost focus. The next moment, some changes happened. Sun Lang held the sword hilt with one hand and the sword tip with the other. He lifted his leg, wanting to tear the sword apart, but he suddenly felt a blazing light awakening from the demon's sword in his hand. He let go of his hand and retreated. There was a sharp pain in his left hand, and when he raised his hand, there was a red mark on his palm, and his skin was almost broken. The ranger shook his hand and frowned. In front of him, Ji-do was floating in the air, and it was constantly spinning. The demon power that filled the enchantment of the ruins flowed back like rivers returning to the sea. The octagonal altar was emitting a demonic blood glow, and it was boiling. A transformation was happening on Ji-do's body. The demon power grew, and the scars were healed. This demon sword was actually on the verge of awakening. What was going on? Sun Lang looked at the sky. Could it be that the last sacrificial offering had died? But he clearly did not feel the influx of karma. Ji-do emitted a colder light than before. In an instant, the sword tip reversed, and it flew towards Sun Lang again. Sun Lang sneered and raised his hand to meet the attack. But the demon sword suddenly hummed, and the sword tip changed direction, bypassing Sun Lang's attack, and rushed to the other side of the ruins. The ranger suddenly turned his head, but his heart sank. He saw Lu Shujin raise her hand, and with a light wave, Ji-do let out a joyful cry, and flipped, and fell into her slender palm. Sun Lang strode towards her. Trash! What's the use of holding a broken copper and iron? Do you also want to be beaten into minced meat with your sword? But after he took a few steps, he suddenly stopped. The person holding the demon sword looked at him, and her eyes were filled with calmness and sadness. Sun Lang frowned. Annie Lu, what's going on? Lu Shujin revealed a sad smile and said softly, Ji-do is about to be completed. The last sacrificial offering of the 8 distresses has returned, but it's not Kong Zhongwu, but her. At the last moment, she filled the position that couldn't be desired and became a sacrificial offering. Through the resonance channel with Ji-do, she entered the demon's sword. Now, Ji-do is about to awaken. Sun Lang's expression changed. You're the 5 essences blazing. Lu Shujin nodded gently. Yes. The ranger took a step forward and stretched out his hand. Give me the sword. I'll destroy it. Annie Lu took a step back, shook her head, and smiled sadly. All of this happened because of me. I've done too many wrong things, and I don't have the face to live in this world anymore. Moreover, there's still one more thing to do. Sun Lang did not say anything and rushed forward, but Lu Shujin raised the demon's sword in her hand and waved it forcefully. The demon sword roared, and demon power surged. Its power was far stronger than before. Sun Lang was caught off guard and stretched out his hand to block, but he was forced to take 2 steps back. And what Master Lu wanted was this short delay. She controlled Ji-Du and soared into the sky. Her finger brushed across the sword, and the purple demon fire burned on the sword. Then she raised the demon sword, and her last order was to borrow the demon sword's terrifying power, with herself as the center, and suddenly spread to the surroundings of Luzhan. All my children, go to sleep, and never wake up again. After doing all this, she suddenly felt a wave of dizziness, which came from the turbulence of her soul. She felt a stronger and stronger suction from Ji-Du, pulling her soul to complete the final sacrifice. In a hazy state, she saw Run-Tu, saw fourth sister-in-law Dan, saw all the people she had hurt, and that everything would be repaid in the end. And you, Sun Lang, I'll leave my last apology to you. In this life, I really can't help you, so I can only transform into this sword and stay by your side. No matter who your enemy is in the future, I will fight side by side with you. At the moment when she was about to lose consciousness, she suddenly saw a bright sword light soaring into the sky. The sword can't be controlled. You stay here. Chapter 324. She was in a daze and didn't know where she was. She felt that her soul was wandering in nothingness. After a long time, she didn't know when all this would end. Then, she opened her eyes. What came into her sight was a slightly tired but satisfied face. This was the person she dreamed about. The fate of the 2 of them began 8 years ago, carrying the biggest secret of this country. Because of the national affairs, because of life and death, many unfair and inappropriate things had happened. In the end, the situation slipped in a direction that no one could predict, and no one knew what would happen in the future. But she survived, and he was still alive. In fact, this was enough. Lu Shuren smiled weakly. She wanted to struggle up, but she felt waves of weakness and exhaustion rushing into her heart. She was mentally and physically exhausted, and had experienced so many tragic things in the past few days that it was enough to destroy the meaning of life. From head to toe, she really did not have the slightest bit of strength. So she simply lay in Sun Lang's arms, quietly asking, "How long have I slept?" Sun Lang said with a smile, "Not long, not long. You just slept for a year. The emperor was chopped up by me. At this time, the empire no longer exists. Red flags are flying all over Shenzhou, and the great proletarian revolution is in full swing. Well, there's no time to explain. Get up quickly. The National Political Consultative Conference is about to begin. The party and the country have decided that I will appoint you as the vice chairman." Lu Shujin was shocked at first, then looked up at the ruins around her and rolled her eyes. Then, her expression became lonely. She sighed and said, "I clearly remember that my soul had been sucked into Ji-Du's body. I didn't expect that I was still saved by you. How did you do it?" Sun Lang said proudly, "Of course, it's because I've been through hundreds of battles and seen a lot." Lu Shujin said softly, "Pulling out the soul that has been sealed in the Imperial Army. Have you even experienced this kind of thing?" The paladin was stunned for a moment, and then showed a calm smile. "Well, after fighting for so many years, I will always experience all kinds of strange battles and gain all kinds of subtle experiences. Now it seems that it's really lucky. Without that experience, I'm afraid I can't save you this time, and you will have to be an honest sword girl." Speaking of this, Lu Shujin's face suddenly changed. "Where is Ji-Du?" Sun Lang said as if nothing had happened. He turned into a butterfly and flew away. Lu Shujin's face turned pale in an instant. "You broke it," Sun Lang said with a subtle look. "What's wrong with you? Do I look like the kind of person who likes to describe death? If it's broken, it's broken. If it flies away, it's flown away." "That's true. Lu Shujin nodded at first, and then her expression changed again, and her voice rose an octave. Flew away? Where did it fly to? Maybe it flew to a broken island in the west, stuck in a rock, and was used by a gay sissy to coax a little princess. Sun Lang shrugged. It's none of my business, so it ran away. Lu Shujin struggled to get up and said anxiously, How is it none of your business? My other self is also in the sword. She also knows about you, and also knows that you are still alive. If she runs to the Empire and tells them about you, then you can forget about living a peaceful life in the future. Sun Lang raised his eyebrows. That's also good. I made an agreement with someone not to stir up trouble for 3 years. But if the other party takes the initiative to look for me, then it's a different story. You. Lu Shujin was so angry that her chest rose and fell rapidly, and tears were about to come out. You finally broke free. Why do you want to go back? Sun Lang looked at her and was afraid that she would pass out due to her great joy and sorrow. That would be really bad. So the ranger hurriedly coaxed, don't panic, are you stupid? The awakening of Du requires the fusion of the 8 distresses. Now that I have forcibly separated you from the sword soul, the awakening ceremony has been forcibly interrupted and the entire upgrade mechanism of the sword soul has gone wrong. The karma is violently surging, and I'm afraid that bitch personality no longer exists. Du escaped in the end only because of his fear of me instinctively. This sword soul has not been formed, so it can't move alone for too long. At most, it can fly all over the sky and then find a place to fall into the ground, just like Third Brother's missile. He said a mess, and none of his words hit the point, but Lu Shujin still heard the truth that Sun Lang wanted to hide. She sighed softly, and her eyes turned red. So, she is already dead. Probably. Sun Lang said lightly, Life and death are predestined. You don't have to worry too much. Everyone will eventually die. Lu Shujin suddenly smiled, but as she smiled, tears flowed down. She smiled bitterly and said, These comforting words are really cruel, cold-blooded, ruthless, and hateful. I can't hear a trace of sympathy and pity. The person who said these words must be the coldest person in the world. Speaking of this, Lu Shujin cried even more sadly. Her expression was complicated, and she sobbed. But these words were said when I comforted you after you went to the battlefield for the first time to kill people. Now, you return them to me. Now I finally understand how you feel. Sun Lang, I'm sorry, I never thought that I would be like this today. Yes. Sun Lang's arm around Lu Shujin tightened slightly, but his expression was still calm. He raised his left hand and flicked Lu Shujin's forehead. Although he did not use his internal strength, he still did not hold back. Like an angry parent punishing a naughty child, he left a red mark on Lu Shujin's smooth forehead. Facing the other party's surprised gaze, Sun Lang smiled. Since you have reflected on your actions, since you have understood my feelings at that time, and since you have already said sorry, then, Dr. Lu, the old grudge between us will be written off today. From now on, I don't hate you, not at all. Under the cool autumn wind, under the ruins, among the rocks and broken tiles, Sun Lang's smile seemed to be the same as before, but it seemed to be missing something, and yet there seemed to be something more. Lu Shujin stared at his face blankly. Suddenly, she hugged Sun Lang tightly, buried her head in his arms, and burst into tears. The paladin held the person in his arms, gently patted her back, and looked up at the sky. It was blue and clear without clouds. The changes and earth-shattering momentum when Du awakened had dissipated, as if nothing had happened. Listening to the person in his arms crying, he showed a faint smile, and for a moment, his eyes were a little sore. The endless changes in this wonderful world, the treacherous people's hearts were capricious, an entanglement of cause and effect that lasted for 8 years, hatred and gratitude, despair and hope, destruction and rebirth, sacrifice and achievement, were entangled together. It was unclear where the road ahead was, what the future would be, and what the end of hatred was. Only these, no matter how strong his martial arts were, could not be understood or seen through. After all, there was too much sadness and helplessness in this world. Even he could not change all this by himself. But, in fact, it did not matter. There was no need to change all this. Just like now. He lowered his head and glanced at the person in his arms. Fortunately, I saved you. Fortunately, in this cold, ruthless, selfish, and mediocre world, there is still hope that has not been obliterated. Fortunately, in this bone-deep coldness, there is still your chest, which can bring warmth to my heart. Sun Lang silently raised his head, tears flowing from the corners of his eyes. Damn. So this is the feeling of holding a girl in his arms. The two of them hugged each other in silence, quietly allowing time to fly by. After Aunt Lu cried enough, she simply let go, lying in Sun Lang's arms, wiped her tears with his clothes, and whispered, "There are still a lot of things to do." At this time, Sun Lang was seizing the time to feel and remember. He casually nodded, "Yes, yes." Lu Shujin softly said, "I have decided to go find Ji Du. No matter if she is dead or not, this sword, after all, is everything she paid for. How many people have died in vain because of it? How many people have sacrificed themselves because of it? This demon sword that is piled up from the blood of evil and the bones of innocent people cannot fall into the hands of evil people. I have no intention of arguing anything, but I want to use it to do something valuable and meaningful." Sun Lang lazily nodded. Yes, that makes sense, that makes sense. In any case, it is an orange equipment. It is good to pick it up and use it as a fire rod. Aunt Lu sighed again. So many people have died. Lu Town needs to be settled properly. I already have no face to come back. I can arrange a worry-free life for those who survived, but for those who died, what can I do to make up for them? Especially them. Brother Runtu, sister-in-law Dan, old lady Jiujin, Hua Xiaoshuan, sister-in-law Xianglin, Xia. They have no family. They did not say their last wishes. I don't even know what to do, so she softly said, "I want to write about their stories. I know a little about their lives. After being pulled into Jidu, I also saw their life's pain and sorrow from their karma. The reason why they have such a tragedy and encounter cannot be simply attributed to the will of heaven. It is more because of the shortcomings of this country, this imperial court, and the contempt of the world's public opinion and the ignorance of people's hearts. I hope that in the future, there will be fewer and fewer people like them, and their tragedy will not happen again. So I want to write and record their lives and carefully think about what went wrong with the imperial court and the people of this country." Sun Lang casually replied, "Sir should indeed write a little. I loved reading Sir's articles when I was young." Aunt Lu had already heard that Sun Lang's mind was wandering and angrily said, "I'm talking about serious matters. Can you not be distracted?" The speaker did not mean it, but the listener took it seriously. When Sun Lang heard about serious matters, he seemed to have thought of something. Suddenly, he clasped Aunt Lu's shoulders with both hands and said seriously, "When you say this, I remember a very important matter." Lu Shujin heard him speak seriously and thought that it was something important about Lu Town. She quickly straightened up, faced Sun Lang, and anxiously asked, "What's wrong?" Sun Lang looked at Aunt Lu with a burning gaze and said seriously, "A trick, a trick. According to the general rule of the development of things, when the male lead painstakingly saves the female lead, the plot of repaying the kindness will naturally occur. Don't you think so? So where do we start?" Lu Shujin looked at Sun Lang, her beautiful face slightly red, and her eyes wandered. She glanced at Sun Lang with a smile on her lips. This glance immediately made Sun Lang's body shake, and his little brother moved without wind. Then, in the next moment, Aunt Lu pressed her head and said weakly, I suddenly feel very dizzy." Sun Lang's expression instantly turned cold, and he glanced at her. Keep pretending." Lu Shujin cried out and fell into Sun Lang's arms, muttering to herself, "I'm so tired. I really want to sleep." Huff, huff. Sun Lang sneered at first, then realized that something was wrong. He reached out to push her, and then flew into a rage. F***CK. You're really asleep? Hey, wake up. You're shameless. Hey, why aren't you following the basic rules? Hey, wake up. You're acting like this. Even if I take advantage of the situation, it's still very F***king boring. Hurry up and cooperate with me. I really want to know how it feels to be taken by a big sister. Why don't you F***king consider my feelings? Unfortunately, Aunt Lou seemed to be really tired, and no matter how Sun Lang pushed her, she did not wake up. She was sound asleep, and the corners of her mouth were still curled into a smug smile, as if she was in a defenseless state, which made Sun Lang almost go crazy. Hey, if you don't wake up, I'll do it directly. I'll go all out and do it directly. I'll cook the rice directly. I'm going to touch it. I'm going to put my hand in. Damn, you win. Sun Lang helplessly carried Master Lu on his back and retaliated by slapping her but twice. It felt pretty good. Aunt Lu, who was sleeping, let out a sleep talk. She twisted her body and then changed into a more comfortable position, lying on Sun Lang's back, and continued to sleep comfortably. Sun Lang rolled his eyes, and as he walked, he chattered, "Sleep, sleep, sleep. Let's see how long you can hide. Just you wait. When the time comes, I'll definitely make you tear the bed sheets and grab the railings." Then, he carried Lu Shujin on his back and walked up the huge ruins of 100 Herb Garden. The gorgeous pavilions and buildings were all gone and completely turned into memories of the past. The cage that imprisoned Aunt Lu should also dissipate, right? The warm sunlight shone on Sun Lang's face. He chuckled and said softly, "Congratulations, Aunt Lu. You've already walked out, but when can I walk out? If I forgive you, who will forgive me?" Maybe it was an illusion, or maybe it was a subconscious action in her sleep, but Aunt Lu's arms around Sun Lang's neck tightened slightly. Chapter 325. Today, after experiencing the initial hustle and bustle, Lu Town had returned to its former calm. The events of the past few days were enough to become a topic of conversation for a long time. As soon as they woke up, the masses were pleasantly surprised to find that the mountains above their heads had disappeared without a trace. Squire Zhao Laosi, Lu Town's He Chun Lai, as well as the tyrants Kong Zhongwu and Xia Ague, who had rapidly risen in recent years, had all disappeared without a trace. The most noteworthy was the Lu family, a large family that had occupied the town for more than 100 years. Overnight, the last remaining herb garden had been razed to the ground. Everyone was surprised, happy, and curious. After careful discussion by the all-knowing scholars in the tea houses and restaurants, they finally came to a conclusion. A certain hero who had punished evil and robbed the rich to give to the poor had eliminated all these tyrants in one day. He had also heard that the herb garden was haunted, so he had taken advantage of the night to enter and fought with the ghosts of the dead. In the end, he had directly razed the place to the ground, ending all troubles once and for all. Unfortunately, this explanation was too bizarre. No matter how hard they racked their brains, they still couldn't figure out how the person who could destroy such a huge 100 garden was capable of fighting. Thus, they were inclined to believe that this was justice from the heavens. It was as if the heavens had thrown down a meteorite or a bolt of lightning to solve the historical problems left behind by the 100 garden. The proof was that they vaguely remembered that there seemed to have been a huge commotion yesterday. There were sounds and strong lights. Yes, it seemed that everyone had lost their memories of yesterday and felt confused about what had happened yesterday. They only remembered that when they woke up today, Lu Town had undergone earth-shattering changes. These muddle-headed, ordinary people definitely wouldn't be able to understand the strangeness and subtlety of it. Therefore, I didn't think about it. After all, none of this had anything to do with them. After all, no one in their family had died. Their house hadn't collapsed, and this was Lu Town. The Emperor's grace couldn't reach them. The wind and waves of the sea couldn't reach them, and the sky demon had been eliminated. Even if the Russians came from the north, Mingzhou would be there to deal with them. Everyone knew their place, happily, and lived every day as usual. As for the stories that had happened in the past few days, they could only be used as a topic of conversation, to scare children, and to brag to foreigners or countrymen in exchange for their reverence and a bit of spiritual satisfaction. They would talk about the rich but heartless Liu family, about the Kong and Xie duo who rose and disappeared like lightning, and about how a few rich and heartless landlords in town had finally been punished by the heavens. Then they would be happy, thinking that in this world, good and evil would be rewarded. It was not that there was no reward, it was just that the time had not yet come. Therefore, even if they were bullied by Kong, Xie, and Zhao He in the future, they could use this most realistic example to convince themselves that they should just wait and be patient. Sooner or later, someone would come and take them away. This was probably the meaning of the stories of the heroes who did justice to the evil and the scenes of the upright officials defeating the corrupt officials in dramas to the people. As for the people who had mysteriously disappeared and died in this world, such as the red-clothed boy Hua Xiaoshuan who suddenly died under the arena, or the crazy old woman who often wandered around Lu Town and talked about her Amao, or the beautiful widow who was widowed at a young age and whose son died. These people had mysteriously disappeared and disappeared. No one had seen them again. Perhaps they were all dead. But who cared about the life and death of these people? However, all of this had nothing to do with one person. Lu Shujin packed her luggage and stood on the mountain outside the town, gazing at the land where she grew up. A familiar voice came from behind her. Leaving so soon? Yes. Lu Shujin turned back and smiled softly. If this incident had benefited her in any way, it was that her personality had softened and she had become more feminine. She said softly, "My story here has ended. Lu Town is still Lu Town, but my story is gone. I feel guilty about this place. I don't know how to face it. After all, there are too many memories here, many of which are not good. Even I don't want to stay here. I want to erase this nightmarish past, but in the end, I can't forget it." Sun Lang said with a subtle expression, I'm not talking about this. Don't be so artistic. I'm saying that we still have a scene and several CGs that have not been recycled." Although she did not understand Sun Lang's terminology, Lu Shujin easily understood his meaning with a woman's intuition. So she coughed twice, her face became weak and pale, and even cold sweat dripped down, but her expression was very firm, as if she had made up her mind. She took a step forward, and although her body was shaking, she firmly said, "You are right, although I have not recovered from my serious injuries. But after all, you have done me a great favor. Although this little girl has the appearance of a willow and has not recovered from my serious injuries, but this favor must be repaid. So if you don't mind that I have not recovered from my serious injuries, I am willing to repay you with this seriously injured body of mine to thank you for everything you have done for me. Please don't worry. Although I have not recovered from my serious injuries, I will definitely be able to persevere." At this point, Auntie Lu's body shook even more violently. This doctor, if she pretended to be sick, it could not be any more real. Looking at her weak appearance, it was as if a gust of wind could blow her away. Sun Lang was so angry that he laughed directly. "You're pretending. Keep pretending. Do you believe that I will throw caution to the wind and directly put you down here?" Lu Shujin covered her mouth and coughed twice. She smiled weakly and said, "Of course I believe you. After all, Sun Lang, you're a scumbag who can pull a seriously injured and weak woman to have sex with you. How many times do you want to emphasize that you have not recovered from your serious injuries? Also, you seem to be mocking me, as if nothing had happened just now." Lu Shujin turned her head to the side and said timidly, "I didn't. Disgusting. Disgusting. You're already so old, and you're still acting cute." Sun Lang stomped his feet and said, "You can hide for the first time, but can you hide forever? Why should the weak resist? If you don't resist, it will be very comfortable. Why don't you understand?" Auntie Lu suddenly laughed and reached out to hug Sun Lang. She said softly, "I just don't want to associate this with kindness and make it seem like I'm repaying a debt of gratitude. I don't like it." When Sun Lang heard this, in addition to Auntie Lu taking the initiative to hug him, the pair of plump breasts pressed against his chest. It was soft and very comfortable, so his expression softened slightly. who knew that Auntie Lu would follow up with another sentence. Since you've been a virgin for so long, it doesn't matter if you wait a little longer. You woman. As expected, I should have had sex with you on the spot. Humiliating line. Bring up the equipment. Silver suspension, jade, sulfur ring. Mr. Burmese, bell, lock, yang jiao. Lu Shujin smiled as she dodged. Suddenly, she turned around and shouted, "Hey, come over quickly. Sun Lang has something to tell you." A few figures flashed over from the foot of the mountain. Sun Lang rolled his eyes and pointed at Auntie Lu with trembling fingers. "You didn't eat the virgin chicken that was sent to your mouth. Don't regret it in the future." Lu Shujin said with a smile, "Do you think you can fly?" She had been beating around the bush for the past 2 days and had already deduced that Sun Lang had a special power that could awaken a woman's most primitive desires and make a woman's body react instinctively. Because of this reason, he couldn't touch other women at will. Previously, in the 100 Herb Garden, she was also done by him, but now she didn't seem to have this kind of concern. Yesterday, she nonchalantly did an experiment on Sima Ping and proved that it wasn't Sun Lang's ability that disappeared, but she herself suddenly had the ability to resist or counteract that special power. Thus, she became able to touch Sun Lang at will. If there was any change in her body in these 2 days, it must be she raised her right hand and a deep purple demon power flowed out from her body and nimbly circled in her palm. Ji Du's demon power. That day when Sun Lang cut off the connection between her and Ji Du, a part of Ji Du's huge demon power still remained in her body. The contract and ritual actually didn't completely disappear. Now, she still maintained a faint sense of Ji Du, not to mention whether this was a good or bad thing. Sun Lang saw her these 2 days, like a cat seeing a fish, meowing anxiously. It was really cute, but humph. In this way, wouldn't it seem that he only pestered me because I could touch him? This idiot. Forget it, I'll covet him for a while first. In any case, it was only because I accidentally obtained Ji Du's demonic power that I was able to resist that kind of power. Other than that, even someone as strong as Zhao Yunlong could only endure a little and not be completely immune to it. What do I have to worry about? This cooked duck, can it fly away? Lu Shujin revealed a confident smile. On the other side, a few people went up the mountain. There were Zhao Yunlong, Sima Ping, He Xiandang, and the iron-headed ape. Snake and Monkey didn't play by the rules during the battle on Juji Mountain because Kong Zhongwu and the farmer didn't play by the rules at all. After luring the misfit monster to jump off the cliff, they actually climbed down the cliff directly. The 2 people who followed them up looked for them on the mountain for a long time, thinking that they didn't know which way they ran down the mountain. By the time the fire in Flatbridge Village broke out and they hurried over, Zhao Yunlong had already finished his work. At least Sima Ping didn't do anything. In the end, she did a little bit of work. At this moment, when the girl recalled everything that had happened in the past few days, she suddenly had the urge to cover her face and run away in tears. Speaking of which, you bunch of adults made things like this. What 8 distresses? What sacrifice? What demon sword? All these big shows came one after another. Who the hell still remembers that you sent me here to study medicine? She was in a complicated mood. Suddenly, she heard Sun Lang waving his hand and saying with a smile, "Sima Ping, come over." To be honest, I was worried that Aunt Lu would teach you to be a radical troll. After experiencing these things, I can rest assured and hand you over to her. After experiencing these things, Aunt Lu must have a lot of life experiences. If you follow her, not only can you learn a lot of medical skills, you can also recite a lot of texts. Sima Ping was puzzled. On the other side, Lu Shujin frowned and said, "Wait a minute, I plan to find Ji Du if I bring Ping, or it's okay." Sun Lang smiled slightly. "I originally wanted to accompany you, but I suddenly remembered something that I have to deal with. But don't worry, I will let Chao Patao accompany you. With her, how much trouble will it take to find a broken sword? You don't have to worry about Sima Ping's safety. After you find Ji Du, come to Mingzhou. I bought a big house, and there are many rooms." Lu Shujin thought for a while and nodded in agreement. Ji-Du was a demon weapon that could rival the seven luminaries' sacred sword. If Sun Lang could take over, it couldn't be better. When Chao Patao heard that they had to separate, she was a little reluctant. Sun Lang smiled at her. Go early and come back early. According to Aunt Lu, the demon sword is in the northwest direction. If you chase after it, you will arrive at your territory, Songzhou. As a general of Songzhou and a military official, you have been absent from your post for so long. Although you're not afraid of stupid censors, you still have to go back and show your face. Zhao Yunlong then nodded pitifully. Why don't I go back and write a memorial to return to my hometown to beg for bones, and then run to you? Sun Lang smiled. Return to your hometown to beg for bones? Only you can think of that. You are a general of Songzhou. You are in charge of the military power of a state. It is a pity to throw it away. You should continue to be a general. You can use it when you rebel in the future. Chao Patao nodded. Okay, I know. Then I will continue to be a general. The ranger looked at Ironhead Ape. Monkey, what are your plans in the future? If you want to leave, you can leave now. Ironhead Ape touched his head and smiled bitterly. If I leave, will you kill me with a palm strike from behind? Sun Lang squinted. If I want to kill you, why would I wait for you to turn around and hit you from behind? If I want to hit you, do you still have time to turn around? I can make your brain explode with a palm strike. Ironhead Ape hesitated. The iron-headed ape hesitated. Sun Lang waved his hand and said, Well, don't waste time. I still have something to do. You can come with me. So, everyone, let's part here. Go early and come back early. Old Zhao, if there's anything, use that method to contact me. If it doesn't work, I'll go find you. Then, he turned around and walked down the mountain without hesitation. Ironhead Ape nodded to everyone and left. Aunt Lu looked at Sun Lang's back and hesitated. Her body moved, as if she wanted to chase after him. However, Zhao Yunlong stretched out his hand and said lightly, Trust him this time. Lu Shujin sighed silently. Sima Ping seemed to sense that the atmosphere was not right. She raised her head and asked, Sir, where did Sun Lang go? Lu Shujin said softly, There is something that hasn't been settled yet. She thought for a while, then shook her head and smiled. Forget it. Trust him. We should set off. I can sense that K2 is in that direction. She stretched out her finger and pointed in the direction of the northwest. The wind whistled past. In this direction, in a place far, far away, there was a stretch of mountains. It was steep, mysterious, and rarely visited. Among the Buddhists and Taoists, only a few dozen people knew the specific location of this place and its significance. This was a shelter prepared for the kind and the monsters who could become kind. But today, right now, in a desolate mountain, a girl with bright eyes and white teeth, with long braids, held a purple longsword with red eyes and cried, So you're also so miserable. I'm the same as you. I'm the last bloodline of the Horned Tiger clan. Not long ago, my only elder brother died. Don't you have any relatives left? Then we're really alike. My name is Xie Wei. What is your name? Chapter 326. Several new graves had been erected in the mountains near Bamboo Ridge Village. The people who had suffered so much had experienced the first half of their lives in torment. The second half of their lives that seemed promising but were in fact filled with despair, regret, satisfaction, hatred, and no regrets. Finally, they were able to rest under this land. They had been tossed and turned in this scorching world when they were alive. After death, they were laid to rest in this small grave. This was the way of the world. Most people came to this world to suffer. Now, they were finally free. But there were still some who were not free, or perhaps they had been reborn. Kong Zhongwu knelt in front of the 6 graves. He had taken the initiative to bury sister-in-law Dan and Runta together. Then he buried Xie Ague, Xianglin Sa, Jiujin's old lady, Hua Xiaoshuan, and Ah Chong. He tried his best to collect everyone's corpses so that these former companions of his would not die without a proper burial. He heard the sound of unhurried footsteps behind him. Kong Zhongwu's expression remained unchanged as he said calmly, Wait a moment. There's still some paper money left. It's fine. Sun Lang stood where he was. He looked at the ashes and paper money scattered all over the place. He was slightly surprised. Hell's inflation must be very high. Although Kong Zhongwu didn't know what inflation meant, he could still understand the meaning behind Sun Lang's words. He smiled faintly. It's just a small token of my appreciation and consolation. Truth be told, hell doesn't really matter whether it exists or not. He tossed the stacks of paper money into the blazing bonfire, and the light from the flames illuminated his face. I've always found it strange. Those high-ranking officials, bigwigs, and tyrants who exploited the people and committed all sorts of evil deeds in their lifetime. Yet most of them were able to die of old age and live better lives than the hard-working and simple mortals. If the purpose of hell's existence is to allow these villains who did not do good deeds in their lifetime to enjoy fame and fortune to receive the so-called punishment after they die of old age, then what is the purpose of hell's existence apart from comforting the kind, cowardly, and easily bullied people? At this point, he shook his head and smiled. But I still hope that it has. I hope that there is a world after death. I hope that pitiful people like Run-Tu and Xianglin Sa can be reincarnated into a good family. I hope that Xie Agay, Jiu Jin's old lady, and Hua Xiaoshuan could be well in their next life. Xie Agay? Sun Lang had already heard about Xie Agaway's deeds, and ending from the iron-headed ape as he shook his head. This person is very smart and sensible. However, he's not brave when he should be brave. However, he's decisive when he shouldn't be. What a bad habit. I have to correct it when I'm reincarnated next time. Kong Zhongwu looked at Xie Agaway's grave and smiled faintly. It's not his fault. It's the world that forced him to become like this. I hope that the world after he reincarnates will be better, so that Xie Agaway won't appear again. Sun Lang said indifferently. He stabbed you guys in the end and almost killed you guys. Don't you hate him? I might have hated him in the past, but not now. Kong Zhongwu smiled. He put down the last stack of paper money and picked up the wine bottle. The sparkling wine poured down and blended into the ground. That night, for a child, I turned back and rushed into a place of certain death. I could have avoided it, but reality proved that it was indeed so. Hero and Zhao came just in time, and you also solved this matter beautifully. It seemed that even if I ignored the child and ran for my life, I could still be saved in the end. His eyes were filled with confusion, as if he was recalling the night that turned his life upside down. But I didn't leave at that time. I was still like a fool. Just like before, I rushed back because the child called me a hero. At that time, if I wanted to survive, the wise choice was undoubtedly to abandon the child who could not escape death. But at that time, I realized that the price I had to pay was too great for me. So that night, the 8 distresses died, and Kong Zhongwu was reborn. The things that I couldn't ask for in the past gradually filled the void in my heart after that night. I used to think that the so-called chivalry and justice were just lies that mortals deceive themselves. I used to think that I could have everything with power, but I was wrong. He pressed his hand against his chest and pressed it against his chest. He pressed his hand on his heart and smiled. But it's not too late to wake up. At this moment, all that's left in my heart is pity and joy. I pity those who do good but don't have a good ending, pity those who do evil but don't repent, pity the strong, pity the weak, pity the people I used to hate, pity the people I used to love. I'm happy in this world. It's so ugly, realistic, cold, and cruel, but it has beautiful things that are inspiring, and there's hope. And the most beautiful thing is that I finally realized that the chivalry and justice I pursued in my youth wasn't a lie that the weak deceive themselves. It was rooted in everyone's heart and existed in this world. It used to be illusory and vague, but to me now, it's so real. Sun Lang thought for a while and said with a smile, "You're quite lucky." Kong Zhongwu looked at the 6 tombs in front of him and revealed a gentle smile. Yes, it's really not bad. The ranger squatted on the ground and casually picked up 3 stones. Then he placed one on the ground and held the other 2 in his hands. Kong Zhongwu still had his back to him, so he couldn't see Sun Lang's movements. One of the stones in his hand was sandwiched between his 2 fingers. Sun Lang asked nonchalantly, "What about Lu Shuren? Do you hate her?" Kong Zhongwu tidied up the offerings on the ground and asked casually, "Which Lu Shujin are you referring to?" "The current one." Sun Lang fiddled with the stones in his hands and said in a low voice, "Back then, the lively and naive young lady of the Lu family suffered one blow after another due to the teasing of fate and the drawbacks of the feudal patriarchal system. Her nature was strangled, and her fate was manipulated by her parents at will. She missed the carefree past and hated the present when she couldn't breathe. So, in the midst of helplessness and confusion, her special soul was reconstructed and divided. A new Lu Shujin who was strong enough and could respond to her parents' expectations appeared. This new personality was ignorant and didn't know that she was a substitute and a safe haven. In the beginning, Miss Lu was still able to control everything. She only allowed the other personality to appear when she needed it. But as she grew older, she needed the other personality to appear more and more often. Every time Miss Lu, who was as innocent as a child, wanted to come out to play, she would be scolded and made things difficult for her. After a while, she didn't want to come out anymore. But not wanting to come out and not being able to come out are two different things. One day, she suddenly realized in horror that the other personality had become so tenacious and strong that she could barely control it. What's worse, the other personality didn't know her origin and the existence of the other personality. So, the other personality became a prisoner. For more than 10 years, she watched the fake that occupied her body replace her life, make achievements, and enjoy everything that should have belonged to her, but she couldn't do anything about it. There was no need for him to continue speaking. Kong Zhongwu finished listening and let out a long sigh. So, because of more than 10 years of life as a prisoner, the original Miss Lu became like this, and even secretly plotted such a conspiracy. Fate really makes fools of people. Now, it seems that the current Lu Shujin is also a victim. She didn't know the truth of this matter at first, but when everything came to light, she had to directly face the sadness and disaster that could overturn everything in her past. Sun Lang said faintly, "What do you think?" Kong Zhongwu said softly, "Thank you for clearing my doubts. Now, one of the knots in my heart has been untied. This matter has nothing to do with the current Miss Lu, and the suffering we have suffered should not be borne by her. Even so, with that girl's personality, she won't be able to let it go just like that. But time is the best medicine, and she has a good friend like you by her side to take care of her. One day, she will completely let go of this nightmarish past. I hope that day will come soon." Sun Lang narrowed his eyes and stared at Kong Zhongwu's back. After a long time, he put down a stone in his hand. Then he gripped the last stone. He said faintly, "Then, what about the other Lu Shujin? Do you still harbor hatred in your heart? Resentment is not something that can be easily extinguished. But just as I said, right now, in my heart, pity is greater than resentment. I pity her suffering and pain, since she has already received the punishment she deserves. Of course, I don't have the right to forgive her on behalf of the others who were implicated and harmed by her. But as far as I am concerned, I have already forgiven her." Sun Lang said calmly, "What if she hasn't died and still exists in this world in another way? Then I hope she can turn over a new leaf and become a good person. I said before that I don't hate her anymore." Although Kong Zhongwu's tone was soft, it was very firm. Of course, if she still doesn't repent and continues to harm others, then I will naturally take action to stop her and punish her. You really don't hate her anymore? The stone was gripped tightly, and the hard edges were crushed by the powerful grip, making a soft sound. Sun Lang's tone was very gentle and calm. He said, "You don't hate her anymore? She gave you martial arts, but she didn't have good intentions. It seemed as if she was giving you hope in exchange for your loyalty and submission. But in the dark, she was secretly plotting to destroy your souls and give you despair. You must have once thought that fate had changed, that you could redeem everything and not let the sorrow repeat itself. But she was hiding in the dark, watching as you foolish people took everything away from you, watching as you cried in despair." He said in a low voice, "You've also felt it, right? At the end of false hope is an unfathomable despair. Fate has been manipulated, trust has been deceived, and the soul has been harmed. Everything is a scam. You've also felt fear. You've also been afraid. You've also felt despair. You should also understand this feeling. Now, you don't hate her anymore? Kong Zhongwu straightened his body in surprise. He wanted to turn around, but his heart warned him that it was best not to do so. So he continued to maintain his posture with his back facing Sun Lang. In his mind, he instinctively began to think about what kind of answer was the most appropriate. Just what kind of answer did Sun Lang want to hear? This was something he had often done before. He liked to speculate, liked to consider, but now he suddenly remembered the him under the moonlight who had charged into a desperate situation without hesitation. So he closed his eyes and then opened them. His eyes were already filled with pure calmness. He took a deep breath and calmly said, "I don't hate her anymore. Right now, I'm still alive in this world. My martial arts are still intact. I have hope. I have faith. I have begun to believe in the beauty of this world again. All of this is because a few years ago, someone asked me if I wanted power, if I wanted a chance to change my fate. At that time, I was muddle-headed, down and out, ridiculed by everyone. I was almost going to waste my life. Although I've experienced countless hardships because of this, hanging by a thread between life and death, and lived in fear, but now I still want to say that choosing to accept this demonic gift was one of the few correct choices I've made in my life." He laughed. "And Miss Liu, who gave me all of this, who also had such a pitiful and painful fate, how could I hate her?" The only stone was pinched between Sun Lang's fingers. His voice did not fluctuate, but it contained a coldness that could almost freeze everything. He said word by word, "Then, if you're an ordinary and happy person with a family that is worth cherishing and a future that is worth looking forward to, if one day someone suddenly takes you away and forcibly imbues you with skills, forcing you to be a chivalrous person, forcing you to kill one so-called great villain after another, even if these people have nothing to do with you and will never be able to do anything to you, you cannot resist and can only comfort yourself in the constant slaughter, saying that it is not bad to become a hero, that it is not a bad thing to be successful and famous, and that it is not a bad thing to be respected by others. But suddenly one day, they feel that you are out of control and want to get rid of you, using despicable and shameless methods to shatter all of your fantasies and hopes," he said word by word. "Then answer my last question, Hero Kong. Under such circumstances, will you let go of your hatred?" Kong Zhongwu was silent, as if digesting this question. After a moment, he sighed in a low voice. "No matter what reason there is, it is not enough to be a reason to hurt the innocent. Even if their purpose is sacred and noble, the innocent who are hurt by them will always have the right to revenge." Sun Lang looked calm, without any sadness or joy. Kong Zhongwu hesitated for a moment and said softly, "Of course, there is also the right to forgive. Just like me, when I think of all the suffering I have suffered and all the pain and despair my companions have suffered, my heart will naturally produce unwillingness and resentment. But I will think of the child I saved, of the farmer's last bravery, and of the past brave and stupid me. I think in this world there are always many beautiful things that are enough to make hatred not strong. You're just spouting nonsense." Sun Lang threw the last stone aside and stood up. "Well, this matter is over. What do you plan to do?" Kong Zhongwu moved his somewhat stiff body, patted the dust off his body, and stood up. "I can no longer stay in this town. When I was young, I had the dream of riding a horse in Jianghu and doing chivalrous deeds, but I was not strong enough and could not even deal with the injustice in Liu Town. Now that I have martial arts, the world is so big, I want to go and see it." Sun Lang nodded. "That's good, so that Aunt Liu won't be embarrassed when she goes home and sees you at the grave. You are very sensible. Let's go to the town and drink some wine as a farewell. It's my treat." Kong Zhongwu was still not used to Sun Lang's way of speaking, but he still packed up his things and followed his footsteps. "I should be the one treating you. I was able to escape with my life because of your help. Thank you very much." "You don't have to thank me. I'm not a good person either." Sun Lang said casually, "I judge you by my own standards. I thought that you must hate Aunt Lu to the core and would most likely plot to take revenge and cause trouble in the future. So, with the principle of cutting the weeds and eliminating the roots, I came to ask you. As long as you told half a lie, I would blow your head off with a stone. Look, I'm so fierce and domineering. How can I be a good person? Actually, you don't have to say it out loud. I'm still sweating. The layout of the hotels in Lu Town was different from other places. They all had a large curved counter on the street. There was hot water prepared in the cabinet that could be used to warm wine at any time. The workers would leave work in the afternoon and evening. Every day, they would spend 4 copper coins to buy a bowl of wine and stand outside the counter to warm it up and rest. Something big had just happened in Lu Town, so the short coat gang was not in the mood to drink. At this time, business was bleak. The shopkeeper leaned against the counter with a fierce face and counted the accounts in boredom. Suddenly, he heard a familiar voice. Warm 2 bowls of wine and a plate of fennel beans. The shopkeeper quickly raised his head, and his face instantly turned pale. Kong, don't panic, don't panic. Second Master Kong has turned over a new leaf. He won't kill your whole family for no reason. Sun Lang flashed out from behind Kong Zhongwu's back and placed 9 wins worth of banknotes on the table. Cash, that's good enough. Second Master Kong is going to be a partner of justice. This bowl of wine is for him. Under the setting sun, the 2 people's long shadows were cast on the cobblestone road in front of Xianheng Hotel. The shopkeeper looked up at the 2 people in front of him. Kong Zhongwu was standing under the sun, and the other person was hiding in the shadow. For a moment, he had an illusion. The 2 people seemed to be walking in 2 different directions on the same road, with their backs facing each other. They were walking on similar but different roads. He answered blankly, then quickly scooped 2 bowls of wine and a plate full of fennel beans. He did not know why, but this time he did not add water to the wine. He was very familiar with it. The other young man asked casually, "By the way, does Second Master Kong owe your family 19 copper coins? I'll pay it all together, right?" Kong Zhongwu revealed a gentle smile. The setting sun shone on his face. His voice was very low, but it was calm, magnanimous, and full of dignity. He said it with a smile. "Don't make fun of me." End of the book of the 8 distresses of life. Chapter 327. It had already been 3 days since the change of the Sword of Kidu, and the cover of Lu Town could no longer be kept. Now that the Tianyuan War had ended, the country and its people were resting. It was a time of peace, and human lives were naturally important. In this small village, at least 10 people had died. This was a major case that shocked the entire region. Moreover, there were many suspicions surrounding this matter, and it was extremely strange. After a cursory investigation, it was actually related to the Tianyuan martial merit and even the imperial family. The moment the news reached the imperial capital, the various powers in the imperial court moved together. In a short period of time, it was unknown how many fast horses left the capital, secretly heading to this ordinary seaside town in Suizhou. This peaceful Jiangzuo water village was quickly flooded with a large number of outsiders, secretly inquiring about everything that had happened here. Originally, with the professionalism and skill level of these agents, finding some clues in a small place like Lu Town should have been a sure thing. However, after the elites from all sides entered Lu Town, they quickly discovered that they had encountered the biggest and most King bizarre challenge in their careers. First, everyone in Lu Town seemed to have been possessed. They were confused about what had happened in the past few days, unable to speak clearly or speak clearly. Secondly, it was rumored that the corpses of Zhao Laosi, the squire, and the local moneybags He Chun Lai had all disappeared without a trace. Their homes had also been set on fire, and all the clues had become white ground. When asked the surrounding townspeople who had done it, they thought for a long time and a days and said that it had been done by a group of monkeys. Monkeys, your King watermelon. Then, the second obvious piece of news in Lu Town was that the local wealthy Lu family's 100-herb garden had been razed to the ground. The secret agents all knew that the Lu family, or rather the Lu family's famous Tianyuan doctor, Lu Shujin, was one of the key figures in this case. Many secret agents had secret missions to find or kill her, and her already destroyed home clearly left behind important clues. What? The 100 Herb Garden had been razed to the ground? It didn't matter. Razing the place to the ground meant that they were covering up evidence. The bigger the action, the more thorough the cleanup, the more new clues would be exposed, and the more information they could obtain. Humans, after all, had to leave traces in the world. As long as you existed, you would leave traces of your existence. That was what the agents thought. They were full of confidence and felt that this was a sure win. However, the moment they stepped into the ruins of the 100 Herb Garden, they realized that they were wrong, extremely wrong. Shit. It was full of shit. It was everywhere. It was smeared and splashed very evenly, as if it was an organized and disciplined collective work. It was very obvious that it was done on purpose. The ruins of the Herb Garden had already become an incomparably terrifying ghost town. Everything had been swallowed up by the evil of this world, and all living things with sane minds could not help but shrink back. What? Looking for clues? F***CK. Why don't you go and look? Why don't you go in and look? The various departments of the empire and the elites of the people felt their chests tighten, and a mouthful of blood was stuck in their hearts. No matter what, they could not spit it out. It was very obvious that their opponent was so cunning, shameless, and unscrupulous. They actually used such a despicable method to cover up the evidence. Most importantly, it was really F***king useful. Unable to restrain their anger, the Empire agents changed their target and prepared to take action against the bastard who smeared the wall with shit. However, after asking the NPCs around them, they still received an answer that made them feel complicated. It was done by a group of monkeys. Monkeys, your father's big winter melon. Mother ***, you mean a group of monkeys who knew how to set fire and destroy evidence, and who F***king ransacked all the cesspits and latrines in Lou Town and the surrounding villages, and then poured all the shit they collected into the 100 Herb Garden, causing the Empire's most elite spies to all return in defeat. For these agents, it was acceptable for the operation to fail, but to lose so miserably really made them feel complicated. The mission had not made any progress for a long time, and the higher-ups were very anxious. There was no choice but to be the poop picker while making up a F***king mess of information. They pinched their noses and sent it to the higher-ups. At this time, the atmosphere in the imperial court was very subtle. Politics was a very interesting thing, because most decisions and actions were decided by the ass and not the head. It was said that a certain evil force in the imperial court was well aware of what had happened in Lou Town, because it was this force that had made contact with the B***TCH and had a long history of dirty dealings with her. However, since such a big piece of news had come out, they would definitely shift the blame in secret and pretend that nothing had happened on the surface. On the other hand, another dirty dark force regarded this evil force as a life and death enemy that would never compromise. The key point of a political struggle was that if a trivial matter could not become a dagger to stab oneself, then one must find a way to make it a sharp knife to stab one's political enemy. Facts did not matter. The most important thing was to find a way to F***king kill them. Therefore, this dirty dark force immediately sniffed out a good opportunity to make a move. The most amazing thing was that, based on the unreliable evidence sent by the agents, they actually forcibly made up a seemingly reasonable explanation. The people of Lou Town had lost their memories, so there must be a demon causing trouble. Your master had worked hard to mediate the war with the demon race back then and was very close to them. This must have something to do with you. Moreover, your master had a good relationship with Lu Shujian. You must have collaborated with Lu Shujian to create a big news about demons. The evil force that was suddenly stabbed was caught off guard and almost peed in fear. F***CK. How did they know? However, once this blame was put on them, the martial merits of Tianyuan were not happy. At this time, although the Tianyuan faction had no nominal commander and was divided into several factions, under the influence of someone, this group of ruffians had formed a glorious tradition of, I'm an expert in internal strife, but I'm actually more F asterisk king expert in external strife. So, how dare you F asterisk king bully Aunt Lu? This group of ruffians immediately began to make a scene, saying that Lu Shujin, as a hero of Tianyuan, should have brought glory to her family and made her name known. However, less than 2 years after the war, her century-old family was destroyed. Even her home and residence were razed to the ground and disappeared silently. Even her whereabouts were unknown. As a noble of Tianyuan, she actually ended up like this. Such a big case happened under her rule, but she didn't think about solving the case quickly to appease the soldiers of Tianyuan. Instead, she put the blame on the victim who had no evidence. F asterisk CKU, the bloody mother of the provincial governor of Suizhou. The provincial governor of Suizhou, whose seniority was lower, belonged to the civil official line and was a natural political enemy of the martial merits of Tianyuan. He was also a loyal follower of the Dark Force, so he had to work behind the scenes. After all, such a big case did happen under his rule. If he didn't quickly shift the blame, he would be the one who lost his official position and suffered a demotion. Anyway, he was a civil official, so he didn't have to worry about whether he would offend the martial merits of Tianyuan or not. He was also a dignified governor of a province, so he didn't have to be afraid of them. But it was still a very depressing thing to have more than a dozen powerful bastards in the imperial court overnight. Most importantly, there were too few clues and witnesses. A mysterious force affected everyone in Lu Town, making their memories of the Lu family and the herb garden more and more vague. No matter how the secret agents asked, there was no result. Later, the residents of the town couldn't even tell why the Lu family declined. They vaguely remembered that it was a man who gradually made the Lu family decline, took over the Lu family's industry, and nibbled away the Lu family's foundation. But no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't remember the person's name. The secret agents thought hard for a long time and could only blame it all on the B asterisk TCH who smeared feces. Everyone searched like crazy, but they couldn't trace the person's identity. There were also secret agents who guessed that the perpetrator might be Lu Shujin, but such guesses were immediately rejected. Everyone sneered at this idea. The family declined. The hatred of destroying the family was engraved in her bones, and she couldn't live under the same sky. She must have wanted to cut the culprit into pieces. How could she let people forget this matter? This also became a strong evidence to prove Lu Shujin's innocence and a strong argument in the court. The incident in Lu Town involved Tianyuan martial merit, and also vaguely had something to do with a certain crown prince. This small matter was brought to the capital at the right time, and it happened to destroy a certain delicate balance in the court. The war was over, the sky demon was destroyed, and the biggest external conflict had disappeared. Then, the discussion of who should be the next general secretary became the main conflict in the court. Now, the demons were dancing wildly, and the court was in a mess. Those who wanted to shift the blame were busy shifting the blame, those who wanted to use it as a pretext to make a fuss, and those who wanted to protect their children were busy protecting their children. It was a mess again. Contradictions gradually surfaced, but conspiracies were still hidden in the darkness. In the shadows, new plans and decisions were constantly being made. After this ancient country experienced a glorious victory, it would face new internal and external troubles. Only a few people knew that all of this, the new crisis and the old hidden dangers, all of these contradictions, actually stem from something they did 8 years ago to continue the country's throne. If there was cause and effect, there would be retribution and repayment. At this time, a certain B asterisk TCH, who was constantly on the mind of the intelligence elites of various departments, stepped on the road home with a smile after dealing with all the matters. He was still riding on the Hong Kong Reporter with the red paint on the bow, speeding along the Grand Canal. He was alone and eager to return home. Far away in Mingzhou, there was already someone he missed there. What he didn't know was that the incident in Lu Town had become the fuse that ignited the conflict. It had exhausted the last bit of patience of a certain person and prompted her to make a decision. A storm was slowly gathering. Very soon, it would sweep across the country and shake the world. The first stop was Mingzhou, where he was. Chapter 328. The first rays of the morning sun had just spilled over the city of Mingzhou when the huge city that occupied the northern frontier of the empire opened its sleepy eyes like a sleeping beast. The four gates were wide open, welcoming people in and out. Porters, servants, and peddlers came and went. It was bustling with activity. A new day had begun. Sun Lang raised his head and puffed out his chest, mingling with a group of fellow townspeople who had entered the city and setting off in high spirits. That trip had an important and special purpose, and for that reason, he had returned to Mingzhou from Suizhou that very night. For that reason, he had endured not masturbating for 3 days. It was an ancient custom, a way for a single dog to obtain comfort and warmth in that cold and cruel world full of routines to protect himself. That day, Sun Lang's purpose was a little different from usual. He was going to capture a special kind of girl, a wild Zhangyin Luo. Compared to the other flirtatious sluts, the Zhangyin Luo was more like a mysterious and precious gift from nature. It was an SSR card with full durability and water resistance. It had been persistently fed milk, papaya, and other nutrients for more than 10 years to grow. It was very rare. So far, there were no more than 3 cards with similar attributes and abilities in all of Divine Prefecture. In terms of chest circumference, it was one of a kind. According to Sun Lang's research, the wild Zhangyin Luo was rich in nutrients, especially rich in milk elements. It could provide the necessary nutrients and spiritual food for the physical and mental development of a pure and beautiful youth like him. In particular, the pair of breasts draped in human skin were not only a rare treasure, but also a kind of faith that had lasted for thousands of years and transcended the world. With the bustling crowd coming and going, Sun Lang didn't go straight to the lair of the wild Zhang Yinluo. As an experienced Yinluo milk catcher, he was familiar with the habits of Zhang Yinluo. At that very moment, she, who was used to getting up early, must have already woken up Dongfang, Xian, and Zhuing, and then went out to buy ingredients for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So, he decided to go to the market and wait. Soon, Sun Lang locked onto his target in the noisy market. As a warrior with great martial arts skills and a former soldier of the Empire, he was proud of his perception and combat intuition. Sun Lang took out a small mirror, blew off the dust on it, and tidied up his hair. Then, he began to silently move toward his target. Moving stealthily, like a drop of water entering the sea, this was a gentleman's instinct and also a normal reaction as a babysitter. As a young man with dreams and ambitions, he must learn all kinds of skills in order to pursue beautiful things. This tracking skill originally came from a romance battle game, where the main character was to follow 2 different love paths. As a young man who was eager to learn, he played it very well. Sun Lang smiled. This meant that a soul-stirring reunion was about to begin. He could almost see Zhang Yinluo's tears of joy in her warm and soft embrace. What Sun Lang had to do next was move his body, adjust his state, crouch, get ready, start running, and pounce like a hungry tiger. This series of actions was enough to show that Sun Lang was an experienced gentleman. The most cunning of them all was when he started running. He shouted, "Yinluo." The familiar voice made the girl's delicate body tremble, and she covered her mouth. The girl's body trembled slightly, and she thought that she was hallucinating. She hesitated, and didn't dare to look back because she was afraid that all this was just her hallucination. Because she was afraid that Sun Lang still hadn't come back. She didn't know what was wrong with her. She was obviously such a vile and boring bastard, but after running away for a few days, she had a faint sense of longing in her heart. In the end, she slowly gathered her courage and slowly turned her head. Then, with tears in her eyes, she saw a hateful face with a lecherous smile, who jumped up and pounced on her with bared fangs and brandished claws. "Gwahaha, I'm back." Following that, an extremely tragic thing happened. Amidst the horrifying laughter and panic screams, Sun Lang hugged Zhang Yinluo tightly, as fast as lightning. Following that, there was a perverted and terrifying laughter. Come, let me see. You've grown, you become skinnier. Yo, 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 it seems like you've grown again. I'm really blessed. In the future, when I have children, I'll let them drink milk. Ha ha ha. This familiar feeling. Ho 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 ho. My cute Inluo. After a moment, Zhang Inluo's roar shook the sky. You bastard, give me some time. Then there was a mess. Miss Zhang snatched a meat cleaver from a butcher's stall, and with a flushed face, she lifted her skirt and chased after Sun Lang. She was like a fierce tiger coming down the mountain, and the wind of the cleaver was whistling. While chopping, she scolded, Bastard! Shameless lecher! You still know to come back! You still know to come back! You still know to come back! Why don't you die outside? Sun Lang shouted while dodging. It hasn't been long. At most, it's only 7 or 8 days. Zhang Yinluo waved the cleaver and said angrily, Nonsense! Why do I feel like it's been 2 months? As soon as she said that, she realized that she had misspoken. Sun Lang threw her a coquettish look. You're so annoying. You miss me so much. After the initial panic and confusion, the onlookers soon came to their senses. This was like a young couple abusing single dogs in broad daylight. At that time, people were simple and honest. The world was not corrupted, and people's hearts were not so perverted. Naturally, there was no custom of burning at the stake. Everyone was watching the show with great interest. Suddenly, when they heard the words of the young lady, they couldn't help but burst into laughter and began to jeer. Some nosy people suddenly shouted in the crowd, Kiss! 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 Since ancient times, it was people's instinct to join in the fun, especially in this kind of situation. Soon, the sporadic shouts became a tsunami of responses. Men and women, old and young in the market, were all shouting to join in the fun. Sun Lang nodded his head repeatedly. As an outstanding gentleman, spending money to find a few shills was a proper etiquette and accomplishment. Therefore, with a smile on his face, he opened his arms and walked towards Zhang Yinluo. The girl's face was already red with embarrassment. She couldn't even hold the cleaver steadily. Seeing Sun Lang walking over without any defense, she thought, What should I do? I can't just slash him with the cleaver. She looked at Sun Lang walking closer and closer. Her heart was in chaos. There was joy, anger, and even more anger. This dead person, why can't he come back in one piece? Why is he always doing this? Her heart was in a mess. Seeing Sun Lang slowly approaching, her heart was in chaos. She didn't know what to do. What should she do when he comes over? His martial arts were so high, slashing him would be useless. But if she didn't slash him, should she obediently let him kiss her? If she didn't let him kiss her, wouldn't he feel embarrassed? Would he use force? And there were so many people around. Around people, so many. Zhang Yinluo suddenly realized the crux of the problem. She seemed to be petrified. Her neck turned to the side. The market was crowded with people. Everyone's eyes were bigger than copper bells. The only thing missing was the words, I want to watch a show, written on their faces. Among them, there was no lack of aunties who set up stalls in the market every day. Every one of them looked at her with an inexplicably gentle and frightening gaze. Their eyes were full of sighs and emotions. It was as if they were reminiscing. Back then, this beautiful body of mine was taken advantage of by that rough man of mine. There's actually someone here. Only now did Zhang Yinluo recover from the surprise of meeting Sun Lang again. She finally reacted. At this time, she was still under the gaze of many people. With a bang, her face became redder at a speed visible to the naked eye. Faintly, water vapor appeared. Suddenly, she let out an ear-piercing scream. Kiss. Kiss your head. Then, with an extremely violent momentum, with a shining meat cleaver in her left hand and a vegetable basket on the ground in her right hand, she turned around and ran away with an invincible momentum. The onlookers wanted to stop her, but when they saw the shining knife in the young lady's hand and her demonic expression, they were all scared out of their wits. What a joke! They were just here to watch a show. It wasn't worthwhile to put themselves in danger. Thus, the scene became awkward. Everyone looked at Zhang Yinluo, who left, and then looked at Sun Lang, who was still in a daze. Sun Lang touched his head and had an innocent look on his face that said, "What the hell just happened?" A moment later, Zhang Yinluo suddenly rushed back with a knife in her hand. She ran to Sun Lang's side and angrily held the meat cleaver in a reverse grip. She hit Sun Lang's back with the back of the knife. She felt that it wasn't enough to vent her anger, so she kicked him again. Then, she angrily said, "What are you standing there for? Hurry up and go home to eat breakfast." Then, she carried the meat cleaver and the vegetable basket and ran away in a hurry. Her eyes were focused the whole time. She looked straight ahead and ignored the onlookers on both sides. The scene became a little more awkward. Then, Sun Lang cupped his hands and said seriously, "My fellow townsfolk, you must be frightened. My wife is good in every way, but she's not very frank." Everyone couldn't help but show a smile like an experienced driver. Then, they roared with laughter. The market was filled with a cheerful atmosphere. Then, the original order was restored. Sun Lang came to the butcher, who was also in a daze. He took out a small ingot of silver and handed it over. "Master, I'm sorry about the money for your knife. She's too young." The innocent butcher was delighted at first. He happily took the silver and threw the matter of being robbed empty-handed to the back of his mind. He looked at Sun Lang sincerely. "Brother, be careful. Your wife is a little hot-tempered. If there's an argument in the future, please don't let her get hold of anything." I know. Sun Lang gave a thumbs up and showed a confident smile. A real man with a cute big breast. Butcher was stunned at first. Then he revealed a lecherous smile as well. He must have gotten the wrong idea. He said mysteriously, "Little brother, you have good taste. This wife of yours is really gifted. You bastard. How dare you peek at my wife?" Sun Lang's expression didn't change. He smiled gently and said, well said. "I'm really sorry to disturb you today. Here, I have a little gift." Mingzhou is located in the northern border. Although there are river fishes, there's no seafood. I'm not talented, but I've traveled extensively and made a lot of friends. Recently, I got some local seafood from a barbarian land thousands of miles away. Chapter 329. When Sun Lang returned to the immortal fishing pavilion, Zhang Yinluo was humming a tune as she cleared the table and set up the table for breakfast. When she turned around and saw Sun Lang, she was delighted at first, but then she snorted and turned her head away. The ranger walked into the hall and took a deep breath to relax himself. He looked at Zhang Yinluo and said seriously, "Yinluo, what's wrong?" Zhang Yinluo listened to his solemn tone. She was 30% curious and 70% on guard. She was afraid that this fellow would do something that would shock the world again. Sun Lang looked at the girl and said seriously, "Don't go to that market again. Do you know what it is?" "You don't have to tell me that." Hearing this, Zhang Yinluo's face turned red. She rolled her eyes at Sun Lang and said angrily, "You idiot! How could you do such a shameless thing in public? Even if you don't want your face, I still want my face. How about this? All the neighbors saw it. How can I go there to buy groceries in the future? It's so embarrassing." Good. Sun Lang nodded. "Also, Yinluo, you misunderstood me. I heard that the security in Mingzhou City has been very bad recently. It would be terrible if you were targeted by a pervert. I was just demonstrating the horror of a pervert just now so that you know what to do. So, remember, if you run into someone who doesn't want to let go of you, no matter if it's a big butcher or a big butcher, as long as he dares to come near, just beat him up." "I don't believe you." "Wait." Zhang Yinluo suddenly realized her blind spot and became suspicious. "Are you that kind? Don't you like to see me being teased and ridiculed by my neighbors? Why did you tell me not to go to that market again?" She looked at Sun Lang with disdain, her face full of suspicion. "Did you do something you shouldn't have done?" Sun Lang said angrily, "Why are you slandering me? We're all neighbors, and we see each other all the time. Why would I bully them?" Zhang Yinluo looked around and couldn't figure out what the problem was. She snorted and continued to clear the dishes. Sun Lang shamelessly came to help, but Zhang Yinluo pushed him away impatiently. Go away. I haven't settled the score with you yet. My brain was a mess, and I took away Butcher Lee's meat cleaver. I had to send it back after dinner. Sun Lang heard this, and his eyes flashed. He patted his chest calmly. I'll do it. I'll do it. In Luo, you're shy. You'll be embarrassed if you go. I'm thick-skinned, and I'm not afraid of that. Come, where's the cleaver? I'll send it back to you now. Let's have breakfast first. Zhang Yinluo took the spoon and began to ladle out the millet porridge. She was wearing an apron and spooning the porridge with her bare hands. Her expression was calm and gentle. Compared to the heroic spirit she had when she was a constable, she had a different charm now. After breakfast, you can go and return the cleaver. Then go out and visit your friends. Everyone misses you. She lowered her head and did her work. A strand of hair hung down and was casually tucked behind her ear. The girl rambled. During the few days you were away, Hu Huaishou and his wife would occasionally come to visit. Zhang Jinyuan also sent some gift boxes every now and then. Besides, they were all stinky tofu. I didn't know how to refuse, but Zhuing liked it very much. After all, this is a token of their sincerity. They also miss you. After you come back, go and visit them. When Taoist Bai Shui arrived at Daju Temple, he wrote 3 letters in 7 days. In the letters, he cried and hoped that you would come back soon to save him from the abyss of suffering. And that woman, she rolled her eyes. She came all the time to disgust me. She said something. When the girl said this, her face suddenly turned red. She snorted and let it go. Sun Lang heard the hint of a deal between friends. His eyes lit up. What did she say? What did she say? Zhang Yinluo's face turned red. She said angrily, nothing. Suddenly, there was a strange laughter in the inner hall. Sister Fei Huang. Sun Lang, let me tell you, Sister Fei Huang often came to play these days. She would suddenly appear when Big Cow Zhang was washing clothes, reading books, or in a daze. She would shout, Sun Lang doesn't want you anymore, or Sun Lang and I are engaged. Words like that always scared her so much that she almost jumped up. Then, she would take the opportunity to quarrel and even fight with each other. It has basically become a daily occurrence. When Sun Lang heard this, his eyes shone brightly. He praised Zhao Fei Huang and Dongfang Xi in his heart, and then asked directly, what did Yin Luo quarrel with her about? Big Cow Zhang. Dongfang Xi flashed out from the inner hall and said with a smile, she said, with a whoosh, a simple-looking meat cleaver covered in blood patterns, with a hint of the fragrance of pork ribs, flew through the air and nailed into the doorpost beside Dongfang Xi. Zhang Yinluo slowly turned her head and said with a smile, what did I say? You didn't say anything. Dongfang Xi swallowed her saliva and immediately acted like a docile little wife. She carefully said, he. Zhang Yinluo smiled with satisfaction. Then, she turned her head and looked at Sun Lang. Her smile became even more charming and beautiful as she said softly, if you want to know what I said, you can ask me directly. Why do you have to ask Dongfang Xi? She might have heard wrongly, don't you think so? Sun Lang said with a straight face, you're right. Comrade Zhang Yinluo, I made a formalistic mistake of gossiping. I'll reflect on myself here. Zhang Yinluo nodded with a smile. All right, sit down and prepare to eat. The two of them elegantly sat down at the fastest speed. Only when their gazes met did Sun Lang and Dongfang Xi see a faint disdain in each other's eyes. You coward. What are you looking at? You're also a coward. Dongfang Xi was anxious to get rid of this awkward atmosphere. She looked around and realized that the vicious and despicable tomboy was not there. She raised her eyebrows and asked, where's that old woman? Your sister. Sun Lang divided the chopsticks. She has something to do, so she has to go back first. Dongfang Xian's dog eyes lit up. He slapped the table and stood up. He was both surprised and happy. You're pregnant? You want to go back and take care of the baby? Oh, F***CK. The F***King Zhao family has a descendant. I'm free. Sun Lang rolled his eyes at her. Raise your head. She's just going to do an escort mission. Dongfang Xian curled her lips. TSK. I spent so much effort to create an opportunity for her, but this tomboy who can't get married doesn't know how to cherish it at all. Hey. Sun Lang, at a time like this, you have to take out your courage and responsibility as a man. She's a woman. She's shy and embarrassed. Take the initiative. Go to her. Get her pregnant. Seeing that this little girl was getting more and more ridiculous, Zhang Yinluo arranged the things properly and casually flicked his head. All right, stop talking nonsense. Eat. From the beginning of this topic until now, Zhang Yinluo's expression did not change at all. Even when she mentioned things like nurturing the baby, taking care of her, and getting pregnant, her expression did not change at all, and she did not take it to heart at all. Sun Lang had been paying attention to her expression the entire time, and was a little unhappy. Then, why are you so calm? Hearing this, Zhang Yinluo looked at him with a smile that was not a smile. Do you want me to express anything? F***CK, this little girl, she's actually teasing me? Sun Lang immediately felt that his husband's strength was not enough, so his tiger body trembled. He coughed lightly and pretended to be indifferent. I met a lot of beautiful big sisters in Lu Town this time. Zhang Yinluo took a fried dough stick and took a bite. Oh, it's a pity that no matter how beautiful you are, you won't be able to touch it. Little girl, do you know that your monopoly in the milk industry is about to be gone forever? If you knew about Aunt Lu's matter, would you still be so calm? Do you think that you can get the upper hand with just that pair of breasts? Don't think that you've already won. But Master Lu's matter is really complicated. I can't explain it clearly in a short time. And if Yinluo knew that there's another woman in this world who can resist my great strength, what would she think? This matter needs to be considered in the long run. I don't want to say it now. Not to mention that she probably won't believe me. Sun Lang thought for a moment and decided not to say it first, but when he saw Zhang Yinluo's complacent look, he was a little unhappy. He thought for a moment, then suddenly revealed a kind smile, and looked at Dongfang Exine. This time I went to Lu Town. I encountered a lot of fun things. Do you want to hear about it? Dongfang Exine had been influenced by Sun Lang for a period of time, so when she saw his cheap smile, she knew what he wanted to do. Thus, the girl immediately blinked her eyes and replied with an innocent voice, Big brother Sun Lang, I really want to hear about it. Zhang Yinluo still didn't know that a conspiracy against her was about to unfold. As she drank her porridge, she glanced at the smiling Sun Lang and Dongfang Exine. The man's smile was gentle, and the girl was innocent and lively. They really looked like a pair of father and daughter, and she, of course, was... Hey, what am I thinking about? She lightly shook her head, knocking her forehead, chasing away this shameful thought. She then heard Sun Lang say, This 100-her garden has already become a ghastly ghost town. There are all sorts of strange and grotesque monsters, terrifying and frightening. And the most frightening of all is a monster called the flying centipede. This kind of monster has a huge body and has many legs. Under Sun Lang's detailed and lifelike description, the image and characteristics of this monster slowly took shape. The terrifying hunter hiding in the grass had a strong explosive power and jumping ability, and would often jump up like lightning, tightly clasping onto the back of its prey, and then bite through its opponent's back. Flesh and blood splattered as it drilled in, swallowing the bone marrow bit by bit, replacing the spine until it swallowed the brain, occupying the brain, hooking onto the nerve lines with its stomachs, turning the dead prey into a living puppet. Sun Lang spoke vividly, and his eyes kept on glancing at Zhang Yinluo. Zhang Yinluo was not good at dealing with this kind of strange topic, and when she heard it, she felt a chill run down her spine. Not long later, she forced herself to calm down and stood up. I'm full. There's still a few clothes that haven't been washed. Looking at Zhang Yinluo's fleeing figure, Sun Lang and Dongfang Exine looked at each other and laughed at the same time. Laughing, Dongfang Exine sighed. This cow's spirit is indeed a little cute. But Sun Lang, do you like her a little more, or do you like her physique a little more? Sun Lang was stunned for a moment and touched his chin. For a moment, he really couldn't say anything, but he immediately came back to his senses and rolled his eyes. Little brat, don't worry about adult matters. TSK. Dongfang Xian gave him the middle finger. But when you said that, I almost forgot. Sun Lang suddenly thought of something, and his expression slowly became serious. Maybe I should start investigating. He had always been puzzled as to why Zhang Yinluo was able to resist his great protective power. After thinking for a long time, he could only attribute it to a special physique, but during this trip to Lu Town, Annie Lu was unable to resist at first, but later on, she was able to casually touch him. The key to this transformation was the Ji-Du demonic power in her body. The Ji-Du demonic sword was enough to be on par with the seven luminaries' sacred sword. So when its power appeared on mortal's body, it was enough to resist the great protective power? But if this guess was correct, then Yin Luo, did you also have some secret? Perhaps it was time to start investigating. Chapter 330. In the backyard, beside the well, Zhang Yinluo was sitting on a small stool, scrubbing her clothes. However, she didn't seem to be in the right state at the moment. She was always like a bird startled by the twang of a bough. After a while, she cautiously peeked into the well. When she didn't find any white-clothed, black-haired ladies crawling out, she let out a sigh of relief. However, after a while, she vigilantly glanced at the flower beds and bushes behind her. When she didn't find any ferocious flying centipedes, she finally calmed down. Sun Lang found it funny, but at the same time, he felt that this girl was a little cute. Thinking that this girl was a little cute, he thought that he could use this weakness of hers to do some subtle things. Then, he thought that after unlocking his H-mode, he could tell her these monster stories in bed. Then, Sun Lang's imagination could only leap so far at this level. When Zhang Yinluo heard the noise, she suddenly turned around like a frightened little animal. When she saw that it was Sun Lang, she let out a sigh of relief. Then, her face turned red and she angrily said, "What are you doing here?" Seeing her like this, Sun Lang's eyes lit up. He took a few steps forward and said with surprise and joy, "Are you washing your underwear?" This be *TCH. However, Sun Lang's arrival clearly alleviated the fear and helplessness in Zhang Yinluo's heart. Her courage greatly increased, as she didn't care about Sun Lang's nonsense. She sighed and said, "Are you full? Do you want to take a bath first, or—" Sun Lang stood at attention and saluted. He loudly said, "Reporting to Chief, I want to eat you first." Zhang Yinluo didn't even have a desire to roll her eyes. She sighed and said, "What do you want? If not, change your clothes and return Butcher Li's knife. Then, pay a visit to Huaishou Hu and Big Fragrant Zhang. While you're at it, she snorted and said, "Go see that woman. She's always coming here these days. It's so annoying." When Sun Lang heard this, his body trembled violently. "Madam is actually so righteous. Your husband is ashamed." Zhang Yinluo waved his hand weakly. Go away. Do whatever you need to do. Slow down. Sun Lang jogged over and sat beside the well. He took a few glances at Yinluo. Unfortunately, Yinluo's chest was too big, so his clothes were very conservative. His collar was high, so he could only see a small part of his neck, let alone his cleavage. He sighed and said seriously, "I want to ask you a few questions, the very serious kind." Zhang Yinluo looked at him in confusion. "You're actually asking about serious matters?" "Occasionally, I would ask a little." Sun Lang thought for a moment and asked tentatively, "Well, are you your father's biological daughter?" Zhang Yinluo was stunned for a moment. Then, he picked up the rod next to him and said angrily, "What do you mean?" "I mean to ask if you have any terrifying identity or amazing bloodline. It seems like you don't have any. It seems like you don't." Sun Lang waved his hands wildly to show his surrender. Then he asked in a low voice, "Well, when you were young, did you find jade pendants, thumb rings, magical girl transformation wands, and other strange things in the ancestral cellar? Or did your family members look at you with complicated eyes when you were young?" Zhang Yinluo was puzzled. "I don't know what you're talking about." Sun Lang didn't give up and continued to ask, You studied at the martial arts school in the Vulture Spirit Palace, right? How did you get in? The principal specially recruited you? Your family gave you a gift? A transaction of money and power? How did your master see you? Did she teach you something that she never taught other disciples? Or was she biased and always sided with you? What are you talking about? Zhang Yinluo said loudly. Of course, I relied on my own ability to pass the Mountain Gate test and became a disciple of the Mountain Gate. Moreover, my master is not as bad as you say. She treated all of us equally and never showed favoritism to anyone. She even, as she spoke, her mouth twitched and she said with grievance, favored me? There were a few times when she was clearly in a good mood, but when she saw me, she would mutter a few words like, this evil creature is actually growing up under my master's nose. He really has no respect for his elders. Then, she would increase my homework. Sun Lang glanced at Zhang Yinluo's chest with a subtle look. Good. Your master's witch fairy was also a person with a temperament. He asked a few more questions and felt that it was enough. He sighed. Okay, that's it. Zhang Yinluo was still confused. Hey, why are you asking these questions? What's the matter? Did you find anything? Sun Lang said seriously. I found something. I did find something about you. What? The ranger said proudly. You know nothing about power. Go to hell. Zhang Yinluo said angrily. Hurry up and change your clothes and go out. Sun Lang was driven back to his room and changed into a clean set of clothes. Then he patted his butt and swaggered out. During this time, he also said hello to Zhuing. The little flower monster had been a lot more lively recently. It was all thanks to the influence of Dongfang Xian. He pulled out the meat-cutting knife inserted in the doorpost. He came to the street, rubbed his hands a few times, and squeezed the meat-cutting knife in his hand into an iron ball. He kneaded it like dough while looking in the direction of the Rangers Guild. Yinluo, this silly girl, really knew nothing about power. This kind of careless, silly girl probably didn't even know if she was sold by others. But in this world, there was no secret that was destined to be hidden. As long as you have the heart to look for it, you will find it. In any case, if his guess was correct, then Yinluo was hiding a power that could be on par with the 7 luminaries? How is this possible? Soon, he came to the vicinity of the Rangers Guild. Sun Lang glanced at the guild master's study on the street. He narrowed his eyes to confirm. Then, he weighed the iron ball in his hand, turned the non-existent little Red Riding Hood behind him, and threw the iron ball in his hand out. Pokemon Big Stick Who, I got it. This thing drew a stunning arc in the air, broke through the window of the study, and smashed in with a bang, making a muffled sound. A dull cry of pain sounded. Sun Lang's expression didn't change. He planned to wait here for a while before going in. Suddenly, the window was pushed open. Hu Shoshin covered his head and bared his teeth in Sun Lang's direction. Sun Lang, what the hell are you doing? Sun Lang looked at his old friend in surprise. Hey, old Hu, what a coincidence. Coincidence your mother. Hu Shoshin scolded. I know what you want to say. Other than you, who the hell can use a meat-cutting knife to make an iron ball and throw it at me? Sun Lang sighed. That's your fault, old Hu. You have to know that there's always someone better than you. In this world, I'm not the only top expert. Maybe it was someone else who did it. You can't prove that I did it just because of an iron ball. Hu Shoshin threw the iron ball in his hand over. Other than you, who the hell would leave a useless button on the iron ball? Oh shit, there was really no way to explain this. After a while in the study, the two of them sat down. Sun Lang played with the iron ball in his hand and muttered, Hey, why did I fail to subdue it? He looked at Hu Shoshin and said seriously, You might not believe it, but when I was a Pokemon trainer, I could subdue any Pokemon. No matter if it was Space Splitter or Zeus, as long as I touched it, I could throw a Pokeball at it and smash it to low health. Then, I could subdue it directly. I didn't even need to fight. Hu Shoshin rolled his eyes. Don't talk nonsense. I was just about to look for you. The court is very chaotic. I received a few urgent letters these days. What happened to Lu Jun? There was nothing to hide from old Hu. Sun Lang had thought about it before. Chao Patao had always been a loner. Back then, she was too close to him. Therefore, Although her position in Tianyuan was high, her popularity was not very good. In these few years, she was also detached from Tianyuan martial merit and did not deliberately manage the court. There were some things that were not suitable for her to do. On the other hand, Old Hu was known for his bravery, fearlessness, and forthrightness. Many generals were indebted to him. He was a professional soldier and had a lot of prestige in the court. Although he had retired, he still had a lot of influence. Sun Lang was not willing to show up at this time. Therefore, he still had to use Old Hu as an intermediary to communicate and borrow power from Tianyuan. Therefore, after he said a little, Hu Shouxin's shocked voice rang out. What? They're forging demon soldiers that can fight against the 7 luminaries? Chapter 331. Hu Shouxin said in shock. What? They are forging demonic soldiers that can contend with the 7 luminaries? Compared to Old Hu's shock, Sun Lang was much calmer. The ranger picked at his fingernails and said lazily, Yes, half of the 7 luminaries have been destroyed, and the rest are not much better. If it were me, I would also find a few more who can fight to boost my courage. How normal is that? Old Hu looked at him deeply and said in a deep voice, This is not His Majesty's decree, but the private action of a member of the royal family. Sun Lang spread out his hands. The old bastard and the little bastard, they are all bastards. What difference does it make who is the scapegoat? Hu Shouxin's face sank. Sun Lang, watch your words. The ranger laughed. You, Hu Shouxin, have received His Majesty's favor. You have been loyal to the country, and the country has not lacked rewards. You have been a general all the way. Even if you have retired from the army, you have not taken back the Thunderbow and Thunderbolt string. You have not been treated unfairly at all. As a lackey of the imperial court, it is only right for you to call out for your master. His smile gradually turned cold. But what does that have to do with me? You are your loyal minister and filial son, and I am scolding by His Majesty. If you are unhappy, come and catch me, okay? Hu Shouxin clenched his fists and stared at Sun Lang. The ranger also looked at him without backing down. After a moment, Old Hu sighed, and there was a trace of worry between his eyebrows. You have just come back, and you want to quarrel with me again? Sun Lang, I originally thought that being able to see you again was a great joy, but why do I feel that recently we have become a lot stranger, a lot estranged? Sun Lang smiled faintly. I said that it was not a good thing to leave me behind at that time, but you didn't believe me. So, do you regret it? Hu Shouxin stubbornly shook his head. I don't regret it. You're my brother. How could I let you wander alone in this world? Sun Lang lowered his eyes and looked at the ground. He said calmly, But I regret it. You're still the same as before. You're all brawn and no brains. You're always naive and stupid. You think too simply of the world. Old Hu, people change. Sometimes they change for the better, and sometimes they change for the worse. You haven't changed, but I have. Hu Shouxin was still shaking his head. Even if you have changed, you're still my brother. The ranger sneered, so what? Old Hu, loyalty and righteousness cannot be achieved at the same time. Even if I were to go to the capital and kill the emperor's family, Chao Patao would follow me without a second word. I only want to ask, when your good brother betrays the world, which side will you stand on? Hu Shouxin took a deep breath and said angrily, Why did you do that? You never told me what happened in the battle at the Great Bear Mountain. You never told me why you have such a deep hatred for the imperial court. If you don't tell me, how would I know? Before he finished speaking, Sun Lang said softly, Chao Patao would never ask about these things. That's why I didn't tell you. Chao Patao never asked for reasons. So no matter what happened, I would stand by her side. You always want to know what's right and what's wrong. But there are some things in this world that only have standpoints. There's no right or wrong. You and I can't stand on the same side. Even if you can tell who's right and who's wrong, it's just torturing yourself. Old Hu was startled. Unfortunately, the truth is hard to predict. I originally wanted to live here quietly for a while. But first there was the matter of Miss Zhao's demonic weapon, and then there was the appearance of the horned tiger of the demon clan. And then there was Ping Yi Dao being hunted down. The 6 years of nightmares are still haunting me. I can't help but be drawn into the vortex. Perhaps this is fate. Sun Lang closed his eyes and then opened them. His eyes were as cold as frost. Now you're also involved. But no matter what happens, remember to be a bystander. If you dare to meddle in my business, then I'll destroy your martial arts and break your legs. After an unknown period of time, when Hu Shouxin came back to his senses, Sun Lang had quietly left. He looked at the chair where Sun Lang had sat and sighed softly. When did our relationship become like this? He sighed softly. Originally, it was a brotherly relationship, a friendship that had been forged through mountains of corpses and seas of blood on the Tianyuan battlefield. How did it become so awkward now? You can't be both loyal and righteous. You can't be both loyal and righteous. He closed his eyes, clenched his fists, and took a deep breath. When he opened his eyes again, his eyes were as firm as steel. I don't care what Zhao Yunlong is like. Hu Shouxin is Hu Shouxin. You said that you can't be both loyal and righteous, but I'll show you that I could be both loyal and righteous. He thought and said, Sun Lang has a deep prejudice against the empire. He wants to see the imperial court become a joke. That's why the empress gathered forces and secretly forged the demon sword Ji Du. He was also happy to see it happen. He can't wait for the battle for the crown prince to become more intense. The more people die, the happier he will be. But I can't. Since I already know about this matter, I can't ignore it. He took out a piece of paper and spread it on the table. He ground the ink and picked up the brush. Lu Shujin's position is very awkward now. I can't mention it. Now, there are many people who want her dead. I can't harm her. Now, the important thing is not how to settle the matter of Ji Du and Lu Jun. It's the members of the imperial family who have formed factions and secretly plotted, threatening the stability of the empire. I have already retired from the army and resigned to return home. I don't have the qualifications to participate in politics. However, in the imperial court, I have many good friends and confidants. There is no lack of people who are loyal to the empire. I have to find someone to discuss, but I can't mention the source of the information. Sun Lang doesn't want to reveal his identity, so I can't say anything. I can only use my name. Hu Shouxin made up his mind and picked up the brush. This matter is very confidential. I can't leak it out. I can only discuss it with him first, not to mention that Hu Shouxin was writing a letter. Sun Lang left the Zhongyi restaurant. He looked back and sighed softly. Damn it, now I can't even talk to old Hu. With my short temper, why should I talk to him about this? The ranger took a step forward, sighing as he walked. In this short month, he had experienced so many things. His heart, which had been silent for 2 years, was slowly becoming restless. The recent series of events were like sparks, constantly provoking the anger that had been extinguished for 2 years. There was no one in the world who knew the inside story and the reason behind the sword of Kata better than him. However, he only sneered at this. If it wasn't for the sake of saving Annie Lu, he even wanted to directly throw K2 onto the streets and cause this matter to stir up a storm. The bigger the better. The battle for the crown prince of the imperial capital. Well, the imperial family was a family of bastards who killed each other. He hid among them, fanned the flames, and made the matter bigger and bigger. A group of people fought until their heads were broken and their brains were beaten to a pulp. The final winner would win the prize of being executed by Sun Lang on a moonless and windy night. Wouldn't such a godly development be beautiful? Wishful thinking, but damn it. Sun Lang touched his head and looked back. He said resentfully, I felt so good pretending that I could only run away. I forgot the real purpose of this trip. Originally, I wanted to ask Old Hu to help investigate the information about Yin Luo and see if I can find any clues. If I go back with my tail between my legs, I will lose face. He thought about it for a moment. Previously, he had been domineering and murderous. He had pretended to be arrogant and told Old Hu not to meddle in his business. Then, he pretended that nothing had happened and went back to ask Old Hu to look into his girlfriend's matter. Although I can beat Old Hu up if he laughs at me, but I still don't feel good about it. Sun Lang struggled for a while and then shook his head. Damn it. Without you, Butcher Hu, I will eat a pig with hair. I don't believe. He considered for a moment, and then revealed a smile of understanding. Sun Lang took out a small mirror from his bosom and tidied up his hair. He laughed heartily and nodded. In. I think it's time to pay a visit to my future father-in-law. What information could be more detailed and accurate than the information provided by In-law's biological father? It is the first time you are meeting your father-in-law. Should I bring some gifts like local products? The Zhang Mansion in Mingzhou. The mansion stretched for hundreds of years. The local rich and powerful family only needed a little opportunity to be promoted to an aristocratic family and comfort their ancestors. Such a heavy responsibility was on the shoulders of every member of the Zhang family. It was their shared responsibility. But no doubt, as the helmsman and leader of the family, the master of the Zhang family was the one with the greatest responsibility. At this moment, Mr. Zhang was strolling in the garden. For a moment, he almost looked up to the sky and sighed. The affairs of the world are unpredictable. My daughter is beautiful and talented. First, she was chosen by Fairy Wu of the spiritual Vulture Palace and accepted as her disciple. She was taught the divine kung fu that was famous in the divine land and looked down on the world. Then, she stood out among many talents and traveled to the country of flames to study the firearms of the divine power of flames. She can be said to be a master of both Chinese and Western arts. Her vision is broad and her future is bright. She is one of a kind in the world. She has also been recognized by the Jinghong Sword of the Imperial Army. She is the most outstanding person in the world. I have bribed and arranged for her to return to Mingzhou and take up the post of arrestor of the 6th Fan School. She only needs to practice for 3 years and experience the way of dealing with people. After 3 years, she will have great achievements in martial arts, understand the ways of the world, and have good qualifications. Then, she will take part in the military selections and become a member of the Zhang family. By then, with the help of the family allies and the support of the spiritual Vulture Palace, even if she enters the imperial court, she will have a smooth career. Maybe in 20 years, she can even become the master of the Zhang family. It is not too much to ask for. I have such a daughter. My life is not in vain. I had arranged everything so well, but who knew? The daughter that he had raised for so long was actually snatched away by a bastard that came out of nowhere. As soon as he thought of this, Mr. Zhang became furious. Since ancient times, some toads who couldn't eat the meat of swan would make up a bullshit story about a poor boy and a young lady to comfort themselves. After thousands of years, some young ladies even believed it. As the master of the Zhang family and one of the wealthy families in the northern region, Mr. Zhang had heard a lot of similar stories in his circle. Since childhood, he had always been on guard. After all, he knew that his daughter was stubborn. If she was cheated by a little bastard who came out a crack in a rock, wouldn't that be terrible? Therefore, he cultivated both internally and externally. On one hand, he paid attention to his precious daughter's interpersonal relationships and kept an eye on her. On the other hand, he taught Zhang Yinluo diligently to cultivate her into an upright and good girl, awakening her sense of responsibility and belonging to the family. He even held his nose and allowed the group of old women in the Vulture Palace and abroad to brainwash his daughter, making her develop a competitive temperament, such as a woman should strive for self-improvement and a woman should not lose to a man. His purpose was to make her become arrogant and indifferent to personal relationships. She regarded all men in the world as nothing and was determined to achieve something great. Unfortunately, he had been on guard day and night, watching her every day. In the end, he still ran into this mess. As soon as he thought of this, he felt his anger rise and his hands and feet tremble. In the past 10 years, every time he thought of this kind of thing, he would sneer in his heart and then make a great promise. If his precious daughter was pestered by some bastard who came out of nowhere, he would smash that bastard's head without hesitation. But now, how could that bastard who came out crack in a rock be so good at fighting? Sun Lang, a paladin who jumped up and down every day and did not do his job. He was sloppy, lazy, and casual. His family background was unknown, and his birth was unknown. There was no intelligence, and no information could be found. The only thing that could be found was the most fatal point. This bastard could smash my head with one punch. Alas, father-in-law, what's troubling you? Tell me, and I'll help you share your worries. Mr. Zhang was in a helpless sorrow. Hearing this, he waved his hand and said, "It's none of your business. Go away." Eh. His body trembled as if he had been electrocuted. He opened his eyes wide and turned his head to look. He found a hateful and abominable figure standing not far away, with a broken basket in his hand. His smile was so annoying that it made people want to punch him. Mr. Zhang raised his trembling hand and pointed at the bastard in front of him. He stuttered, How did you get in?" "I climbed over the wall." The other person's tone was so natural, as if he was talking about what he had eaten today. Mr. Zhang felt that his blood pressure was soaring. What are you doing here?" Sun Lang smiled shyly and handed the broken basket to Taishan to give the betrothal gift. Mr. Zhang felt that his inner strength was roaring and screaming to kill the bastard in front of him. He was so angry that he stuttered. Before he finished, Sun Lang smiled. "I'm kidding." Before Mr. Zhang had time to relax, he heard the other person say, "Are you kidding? I married your daughter with my ability. Why should I give you gifts? I'll fight with you." Chapter 332. All of his anger gushed out in all of this. Bastard. Bastard. Wow, man. Bastard. The cabbage that he had raised for more than 10 years was taken away by a wild boar like you. Mr. Zhang roared angrily and waved his iron fist of Taishan's sanction. "I will fight you to the death." Someone said that most of the anger came from one's own incompetence. At this moment, Mr. Zhang must have had a deep understanding of this. His heavy fist was easily blocked by the opponent, and the bastard still had the guts to laugh. "Father-in-law, I didn't come here to fight with you," Mr. Taishan roared. "Don't call me father-in-law, you wild boy." Sun Lang was still smiling. "Don't take it seriously, I'm just playing. I don't plan to find a father who can ride on my head." Playing? The father-in-law's anger didn't subside but rose. He was so angry that he was about to fly. He roared, "You really want to play with my daughter's feelings? You heartless scum. Bastard. This old man will not let you have your way, even if I have to risk this old life of mine." Sun Lang raised his finger. Zhang Dabiao, lower your voice. If you attract the people in the mansion, I'm afraid it won't end well." "Who's Zhang Dabiao?" Zhang Dabiao was so angry that he was about to die. His fists and palms were like knives, fiercely attacking Sun Lang. "Of course you're the eldest, and you look quite well, so you're called Zhang Dabiao. What's wrong with you?" But Sun Lang saw that Zhang Dabiao was so angry that his eyes were wide open. If he told him the truth, his heart and blood vessels would explode. It was the first time he had a girl he liked, the first time he visited his father-in-law. It was obviously a dreamy time, but he made his father-in-law so angry. It was really inappropriate. Sun Lang sighed, clapping his hands like a kitten waving its claws. But this unorganized block easily resolved Mr. Zhang's attack. He said innocently, "You don't let me call you father-in-law, and you don't let me call you Zhang Dabiao. You're really making things difficult for me." "Pooh," Mr. Zhang roared. "Call me Mr. Zhang." Sun Lang rolled his eyes. Look at you. As a public servant of the people, you don't know how to serve the people at all. You only know how to put on the airs of an official, carrying the red flag and fighting against the red flag. This is exactly what people like you're talking about, Small as a sesame?" Mr. Zhang was so angry that he laughed. "May I ask what position you hold, and where do you work?" Sun Lang took 2 steps back and smiled proudly. Then his body shook as a burst of invisible domineering aura emanated from his body, causing the wind to blow by itself and the plants to bend down. He pressed his right hand against his forehead, revealing one eye, and laughed gloomily and coldly. "Since you ask me sincerely, then I'll be merciful and tell you." Mr. Zhang's heart sank, and then he swallowed his saliva. His heart beat faster and faster. This little bastard, it was as if he jumped out from a stone, but his martial arts were so strong that people couldn't figure out his background. If he really came from a hidden big family or had some terrible background, then he was not unworthy of Yin Luo. Pooh! No. No matter how strong his martial arts were, no matter how strong his background was, this lazy guy was so rude that he deserved a beating. Yin Luo must not marry him. Although he thought so, he still had some expectations. He wanted to know where Sun Lang came from. After all, everyone had been curious for a long time. Under the slightly nervous gaze of Mr. Zhang, Sun Lang let out a soft sigh. His eyes flashed with the vicissitudes of life as he recalled the past. The passage of time, 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 the passage of time. I didn't want to let anyone know, but since father-in-law asked, then I can't hide it. He smiled bitterly and then closed his eyes. Well, I'll be honest with you. I used to be a level 8 member of the First Club, a noble Thunderbolt Platinum VIP, a glorious QQ, and Shua Super VIP, the honorary president of the White Silk Association, the high priest of the Giant Breast Church, and also a distinguished member of Billy Billy. Although Mr. Zhang didn't understand what this guy was saying, he could still feel his soul trembling. He squeezed out a few words from between his teeth. I'm asking you, have you ever been an official? Do administrators and language class representatives count? Facing his murderous gaze, Sun Lang raised his hands. Okay, but it's true. I did have an official position a few years ago, but then I felt that the boss was too stupid, so I packed up and ran away. You should take it easy. The world is not good these days. I think this country is doomed. You should quickly run away after making a fortune. Mr. Zhang was completely enraged. I actually had a little bit of fantasy and trust in this bastard just now. He felt as if his entire body was on fire and his blood was boiling. His MP and aggro bars were all full. He roared as he charged at Sun Lang, punching and kicking, shouting, I've spent so much effort to raise my daughter into such a heroic figure. How much blood, sweat, and tears have I spent? How much worry have I borne? I was counting on her to have a meteoric rise and bring honor to our family, so that I could rest assured and feel gratified. But you just casually swindled my precious daughter away. What kind of evil sorcery did you use? What a hateful trick. His punches and kicks all missed. For a moment, he was out of breath. Mr. Zhang stopped where he was and rested for a while. He stared at Sun Lang fiercely and hissed. These days when she came home for a short stay, every time she mentioned you, she would put on an angry and amused expression. While talking, she would laugh to herself. I've never seen such a stupid look on that child's face. Every time she came back for a stay, I wanted to punch you 10,000 times. You've caused this old man's living expenses to increase. Every night, I have to break 5 wooden stakes. Sun Lang nodded approvingly. You're weak in the forehand and not good in the backhand. You really should practice more. Mr. Zhang didn't seem to hear that. He panted heavily and gritted his teeth. Every time she came back, she would just sit for a while and leave, as if she didn't treat this place as her home. Even the only time she stayed at home for a night, she would wake up early in the morning and say that she wanted to go back to cook, with a smile on her face, without any reluctance, as if she was used to this kind of life. Oh, you brat, I'm going to kill you. Don't be like this. Sun Lang gave him a thumbs up. Isn't Inluo's appearance when he's busy in an apron super awesome? Of course it's super awesome, I asked. Mr. Zhang flew into a rage. Did I raise my daughter just to cook for you? Listen to what you're saying. The key is still her own thoughts. If she wants to be a housewife, of course I'll help her. After all, being safe and sound is the most important thing. But don't get me wrong, this is not an imperial decision. If she wants to go out to fight, take risks, or commit arson, then I'll help her too. Sun Lang took 2 steps forward, patted his father-in-law's shoulder, and said earnestly, "You don't understand. People just don't know. A person's fate depends on his personal struggle, but also on the course of history. Your daughter is a civil servant in Mingzhou. How did she meet me? This is called making a fortune in silence. It's her fortune to meet me. Anyway, it's much better than her being an eagle claw in the 6th fan school, climbing up step by step, and then becoming a dirty official. I've seen all the generals and pillars in the imperial court now. I've talked and laughed with them." Mr. Zhang was so angry that he was trembling all over. He pointed at Sun Lang and said, "You little thing, what else can you do except lie and boast? Believe it or not." Sun Lang shrugged helplessly. Anyway, I'm not here to quarrel with you. Come on, let's go inside and talk." "I have nothing to talk about with you. Get the hell out of here," Mr. Zhang shouted. "Guards, throw him out." Sun Lang smiled gloomily. "Father-in-law, the wind is too strong. Don't hurt your tongue. You may not believe it, but even if your whole family were stacked together, they wouldn't be enough to beat me." Mr. Taishan was startled by his sneer and couldn't help but take 2 steps back. He dared to punch and kick Sun Lang before, because he thought that no matter how shameless this guy was, he wouldn't use violence against him, since he had kidnapped his daughter. Unexpectedly, he seemed to be even more shameless than he imagined. Thinking of this, he was a bit scared. It was okay to be beaten up, since this little bastard wouldn't dare to hit him too hard. But if he called for help, he, as the head of the Zhang family, was beaten to the ground by a little bastard in public. This was really a great humiliation. Mr. Zhang took 2 steps back and said in a threatening manner, "You don't do anything stupid. If Yin Luo knows about it, do you think she will let you go?" Sun Lang sighed softly, and his face showed sadness and sadness. He looked up at the sky and said lightly, "Yin Luo, after I came back, I wanted to give you a surprise secretly. I wanted to visit your family in person and get your family's approval and blessings. But I didn't expect that your father despised my humble family background and insulted me in every possible way. He said that I didn't deserve you and asked me to leave you immediately. Otherwise, he had 1,000 ways to make it impossible for me to stay in Mingzhou. Although I was very angry, he was your father after all, so I swallowed my anger and tolerated everything, trying to move him with sincerity. Unfortunately, he treated me like dirt and didn't like me at all. He even insulted me in public and asked your guards to drive me out. His calm tone hid resentment and sadness, the resentment of being looked down upon and the sadness of being insulted. His acting skills were so amazing, and his feelings were so sincere. Anyone who heard it would be sad, and anyone who saw it would cry." Mr. Zhang opened his eyes wide. As a simple and old-fashioned patriarch, he had never seen such a shameless guy. This bastard dared to play the blame game. What was even more infuriating was that Inluo seemed to like it very much. Maybe he realized that he was in a disadvantageous position, or maybe he wanted to numb Sun Lang, or maybe he had vented most of his anger. Mr. Zhang sighed deeply and said, "Forget it. I wanted to see what kind of character the man who charmed my daughter was. If he was a smooth talker with no ability, I would smash his head with 1 punch. But now, alas, although you're a bit lazy, you have the ability. Why don't you make a big career out of it? When the time comes, you can also let Yin Luo marry you grandly." Sun Lang was stunned for a moment, and then a touched expression appeared on his face. He pressed his hand to his chest and said emotionally, "Taishan, I won't hide it from you. I, Sun Lang, have been through hundreds of battles and seen many things. Now, I just want to eat a bowl of steaming hot rice." Mr. Zhang also pressed his chest. He felt that his heart was a bit painful. Mount Tai pointed at Sun Lang tremblingly and said, "Do you want to piss me off to death? I just feel that talking with my father-in-law like this is really a waste of time." Sun Lang said sincerely, "I'm sorry. It's the first time I meet my father-in-law, so I'm a bit nervous. You're tired, please forgive me. With this experience, when I meet other fathers-in-law in the future, it will be much better." Mr. Zhang finally realized. "You're totally looking for trouble, aren't you? What are you talking about?" Sun Lang laughed happily. "Am I so bored? I'm here today for two purposes. First, I'm here to show you who's boss and let you know your weak position in the relationship between your father-in-law and your son-in-law." Mount Tai, who was in an absolutely weak position, began to roll his eyes. "Then, I have a small matter to consult my father-in-law." These words were like a shot of stimulant, which made Mr. Zhang's eyes brighten. "Good boy. You actually want to ask me for help. You dare to ask me for help." The little old man immediately jumped up, full of energy, and shouted arrogantly, "You're dreaming. I'll never tell you anything." Sun Lang sighed. "So it's like this, forget it. I also want to ask what your child's name is." This sentence was like a clap of thunder, which made Mr. Zhang stunned. He said sternly, "What child? You've done something improper?" Sun Lang saw his father-in-law's breathing speed up, as if his blood pressure was soaring. He felt that something bad might happen if he continued to joke, so he shook his head. Don't panic. The revolution hasn't succeeded, and I'm still working hard. This is not the point. In fact, I want to ask about Yin Luo, a very important thing." Speaking of this, his expression became very serious. Mr. Zhang felt the atmosphere, so he put away his angry expression and asked seriously, "What's the matter?" Sun Lang organized his words and asked tentatively, "That father-in-law, is Yin Luo your biological son?" "Get out." "Oh, don't be rough. This is not the place to talk. Let's go inside and talk. Don't make trouble. Don't make trouble. You little bastard. I've seen through it. You want to anger this old man to death so that you can seize Yin Luo as a matter of course, right or wrong. I won't let your plot succeed. Let go of me. Don't pull me. Let go of me." That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.